All right, so we'll call this regular meeting of the Board of Education of May 26, 2026 to order. Present we have Mrs. Bardenwerper, Mr. Lee, Ms. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, myself, Ms. Maxon Kennelly, Superintendent Testani, Mr. Asa, Ms. Rinaldi, Mr. Krasnov, and Ms. O'Neill. If everyone could please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. And now we have some presentations, so I will turn this over to Mr. Testani.
Thank you. Tonight we have the privilege of honoring our regional and all-state musicians. So at this time, I'm going to call up our program director for music, Mr. Robert Hughes, to introduce our extremely talented young musicians.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity.
I apologize, Mr. Hughes.
That's okay.
We're just going to build the suspense for you even more. I'm so sorry. Little flustered getting started late. So I apologize to members of the public. We do need to have public comment first. So if there is any agenda item on which you would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. If you could just come up to the microphone and introduce yourself and address. Okay, no, sorry, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Robin Herda, 1414 Melville Avenue. I sit before you tonight to ask you to vote no to the budget adjustment in regards to the elimination of STEAM. I have listened to hours of meetings, emailed the board and the superintendent, spoken with board members, and have yet to get a clear answer that provides vital research and data points as to why STEAM should be eliminated and partially absorbed into other content areas. I've only heard there's a concern with minutes. When you add, you need to cut. I haven't learned more about the thought process of members, I've learned more about the thought process of members through Facebook groups that I have in response to emails that I've sent. This is a problem. Parents should not learn about this cut at the 11th hour. Communication's lacking, and in some cases, non-existent. If there's a specific reason why STEAM, why art, why Spanish, then that rationale should be made clear and readily available to the public. Through the town hall discussions, the curriculum board felt assured when Superintendent Testani told them the STEAM staff is currently being absorbed, acknowledging if there's a need to go back, we haven't lost the chance. That statement does not hold true tonight with the adjustment to the budget and the elimination of STEAM teachers. There's power in your words. If you make a promise, keep it, or lose the trust and the faith of the public. To know that we're already thinking about a plan B does not demonstrate confidence in the decision to eliminate STEAM. But this is not the first time that STEAM has been up for elimination. This is the first time it's being eliminated under the pretense of it's a problem with minutes. The importance of STEAM is evident in our schools, in our students, and in the long haul. Absorbing partial units into a science curriculum, which will be taught by a teacher that will need to learn the content and how to engage students in a meaningful way, is a massive step in the wrong direction. Changes to the current units in the science curriculum documents show that time will be taken away from current units to make way for some of STEAM. This is not a step forward for our students. Why are we making changes? Why are we watering down a curriculum with proficiency scores only to do a rewrite the following year? This is not perfect timing. It's bad timing with a poor communication, and Fairfield can do better. When solving a problem, we tell our students to research, get feedback, propose solutions, and if you don't achieve what you set out to do, go back to the drawing board and try again. Unfortunately, we're not practicing what we preach in solving the problem of minutes. We need to explore the importance of a comprehensive education. What is vital to our vision of a graduate? Get feedback, propose solutions, do the research, discover what's working and what's not. The excuse of this is the best we can do with the time is provided, it's not acceptable.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Rachel Ryan, 68 Evelyn Street. My comments are focused on the budget amendment to eliminate STEAM staff. During the Board of Ed Town Hall in March, parents commented on their serious concerns regarding the elimination of STEAM, 35% reduction of art in grades 4 through 5, and 25% reduction of Spanish grades 3 through 5. In response, the board indicated that the schedule was directional, that there was still plenty of work to be done. Soon after, I began hearing from parents that staff had already been informed STEAM would be eliminated. In the following weeks, the board celebrated the Invention Convention winners. Simultaneously, it was discussed in the board's curriculum committee that Invention Convention would be eliminated. Subsequently, I've learned that engineering no longer has a home and will be eliminated with the removal of STEAM. Parents have been asked to provide feedback on curriculum changes. Despite substantial reduction to art and Spanish, no written documentation has been shared with the public. It would be essential to see these changes concisely in written form before voting on any changes, including the impact to art, Spanish, and the loss of engineering. Many parents believe that the proposed changes have already been made and that what happens at the board level at this point is inconsequential. I hope that's not the case, as that is not what was promised. As a Fairfield Public School graduate, I care deeply about our community. I understand that at times difficult decisions need to be made, decisions I will not always agree with. At the same time, I expect transparency and clarity. As a full-time working parent, it shouldn't be this difficult to have a clear understanding of what is changing, why it is changing, and how it is changing. Tonight, my ask is that you do not approve the reduction in STEAM staff. Instead, I recommend you delay the vote, put the elementary school schedule on the Board of Education agenda, and have the robust and crystal clear discussion the public deserves. Make it clear to the public why eliminating STEAM is so critical 1 year ahead of a new science curriculum. Make the public aware that Invention Convention will go away, that there will be no home for engineering curriculum, and make it clear from a curricular and teaching standpoint how art and Spanish will be impacted. And regarding Spanish, if there are issues with transition time in certain elementary schools, this should have been addressed months ago, not used as justification to cut instructional time. Based on my professional experience in the corporate and higher education worlds, I can confidently say that the skills developed in these programs, engineering and STEAM, creative expression and art, or the acquisition of world language skills, are not only critical to a high quality K-12 educational program, but also fundamental to making students competitive in today's world. Please treat these changes in a way that recognizes the important role each of these areas play in our children's education with the care, attention, and public awareness it deserves. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Hi, Michaela Chattel, 15 Sedan Terrace. I'm also here to speak on the matter of STEAM and urge you in the strongest sense to vote no on any budget that cuts STEAM as a critical component to elementary school curriculum. There are a million reasons. You've already probably heard them all, but just to reiterate a couple, elementary school is a time where kids have a natural curiosity. It is a time where they are excited to learn and experiment, and STEAM brings that to life. It taps into the way that children naturally learn, experimenting, coming up with solutions, and it's critical groundwork for creating students who can actually solve problems and think creatively about complex challenges, not just memorize words and regurgitate them for tests. So for many children, also, STEAM is a program that ignites a true interest and sets them up for success in their future. I know it has for my kids. How many kids are going to miss out on the opportunity to be excited and curious and discover something that they might be awesome at that isn't just standard math and reading? I want my son, who is a second grader, to have the same experience that my daughter, who is going to 7th grade, has had. She actually, I told her I was coming here tonight, and this is very tween speak, but this is what she said. I'm in middle school at Tomlinson, and I had STEAM program at Stratfield. I loved it. Without STEAM, I'd probably have failed my science class by now. What I learned in my STEAM class prepared me to do well because middle school science builds up every single thing we did there. I want to be an engineer because I want to build houses. I learned about building things and solving problems and finding solutions using creativity and STEAM. It was really just doing fun stuff that also somehow counted as educational. It really doesn't make any sense to cut it. So that's it.
Thank you. Any others?
Hi, Crystal Posture, 812 Mill Hill Terrace. We have two kids at Mill Hill Elementary, a fifth grader and a rising third grader. I was here for the town hall. I spoke very late at about 10 o'clock. I would like to reiterate how important I think STEAM and the other specials are, and how disappointed I am that we are cutting them in favor of better state testing scores. In general, this move toward technology away from creativity, art, music, Spanish, and STEAM, I think is very disappointing, given all the information we have about how bad the technology is. In looking at the curriculum for upcoming third graders, I did see that there are 5 classes of coding being added to the library learning time. I'm not sure why library has moved away from more traditional learning to find books, reading books. It seems to be all on Chromebooks or computers now. I don't think my third grader needs to be on a Chromebook at all. I would opt out if that was a possibility. But to see that we're adding 5 classes of coding when supposedly we don't have enough minutes for STEAM, art, and Spanish, which third grade is losing a lot of those minutes, I'm just confused about where the priorities are. Last time I spoke about AI, I know it's a huge issue. AI has replaced human coding, so why are our kids now going to be learning coding for 5 classes, learning how to create a loop, like whatever that means? Just seems really unnecessary, and like maybe we're about 5 years too late on adding something like coding, and instead we should be not cutting STEAM, which we found the Invention Convention to be one of the most valuable projects our 5th grader did. It combines like every human skill that we need to be preserving in these young elementary kids: creativity, problem solving, executive planning, working with your family. It was the one project I really worked with my 5th grader on. She didn't, and as far as she thinks, she didn't come up with a great idea. She didn't blow it out of the water, but she was proud of her invention. The kids, I don't know if you've been to Invention Convention, the kids are overflowing with excitement and pride over their creations. And I mean, it blew me out of the water just walking around that classroom. And I think it's devastating if we lose that project. I know it was hard, it was stressful, but it was 100% worth it, more than any 5 coding classes, for example. So please vote no. Please delay it so parents have more time. We do feel
Your
like.
time is up. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sally Connolly, and I live at 682 Tungus Hill Road. I did not expect to say anything because I'm here because my kids made All-State and Western Regionals. But as I was thinking about this, I would just want to, and by the way, my kids are 15, 17, 19, and 21, so I have no skin in the game right now when it comes to elementary school education because I'm far beyond that. But while I was sitting here listening to everyone, I went to Samuel Staples Elementary School in Easton, and I was thinking about what I remember from when I was in elementary school. And one of the things was Invention Convention because I won an Invention Convention for the cuff buttoner that I invented that was so amazing. And I got a $50 savings bond for that, which was super exciting. So I wanted to throw that out there. I also wanted to throw out there that I had the most amazing science teacher. And I mean, we're talking about 40 years ago now because I'm 48. So I was like, I don't know, 9, 10. I'm not sure how old I was. But we did these amazing experiments. I remember taking different types of paper towel brands and we held them over a glass fish tank and we would wet them and we would count the number of marbles that we could put on top of the fish tank before the paper towel broke. And that's how we learned to create line graphs and bar graphs. And I think about that. I think about the egg drop, of course, which was, nowadays you could probably Google the way to win the egg drop, right? But back in the day, we just had to kind of figure it out and think about it and problem solve. And I don't remember a lot of other things. I mean, I remember doing some really cool book reports. I will throw a little shout out to some of the English people here in the kind of the reading side of things. But I really remember learning how to think and learning how to experiment. And I will say, as somebody who went into a STEM route, being a neuroscience undergrad, and then moving that into speech language pathology, every day I have patients, and there's no right way. Every patient is different, and every one is a new problem to solve. And there isn't a cookie cutter response to the treatment plans for those patients. And I have to use critical thinking. I have to be experimenting every single day. There's always going to be a research base we can look at. But I just want to point out, I would say it is important to utilize that. And from the Spanish standpoint, so many of my patients speak Spanish, and man, I wish I took Spanish instead of French and learned that earlier. But I just wanted to throw that out there and just request that it's something that people consider, that movement to critical thinking and away from too much technology and Chromebooks, etc. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Clausen. I have a first grader and a rising kindergartner at Stratfield, so I have a lot of skin in this game. It's about STEAM, shocker. My kids love STEAM. The positive impact of STEAM is evident to me when my first grader comes home with yet another innovative and team building project. The negative impact of deleting it next fall will also be evident immediately, as will more minutes spent doing math worksheets to make it to the deemed number of minutes. My daughter loves STEAM night at Stratfield. I don't know if you all are aware, but this is a valuable additional school evening that's dedicated to this innovative learning. Eliminating STEAM will also take away fantastic out-of-school events like this. Other schools are able to keep STEAM and meet the minute allotment. So I just ask that we take a look at neighboring school systems, at others, whether they're competitors or not, but other schools have met this challenge and realize that these programs are crucial to our children's learning. So I ask that we take a more critical look at this and just take a little bit more time to please be a little bit more creative with whatever we can do. I don't know exactly what all those solutions are at the moment, but I do know that the idea of coming here and listening to the vote that says yes was making me really sad for a variety of reasons. We came here for an excellent school system, and I don't want to feel like it's just very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Matthew Wagner, 125 Sterling Street. I'm a McKinley parent. I had some very nice notes. Unfortunately, I was chasing my first grader around and my phone died. So some of them were similar to what Sally Connolly said, remembering sort of my fondest moments from my own time in the Fairfield schools, Invent America and Wiley Mad Dog Norvell, the physics teacher, if any of you remember him fondly. But one of the things that that really strikes me is that at McKinley, I think a lot of people know that we have, as a part of the district's plan, a slightly smaller than average class size on the books to sort of compensate for sort of longer term, lower test scores. That to try and say let's try and improve things by giving more custom attention, more slightly smaller classes, be able to customize our education a little bit more for the students who are there. That's actually what's going to benefit people. That theory really resonates with me, and I think that children do respond to that. I had an opportunity to talk about the planned schedule changes with Superintendent Tistani, with the principal of my school, with several teachers in the school. And as best I can tell, and as best was explained to me, the proposal is partially because the reading curriculum is larger than the amount of time that we have to contain it, that we want to spend more time to be able to reach all of the subjects in it, to focus a little bit of attention on test scores, that's something that we are lacking in, that spending more time may make improvements in that area. And I guess I feel like the enriching elements, and whether it's STEAM specifically, and I know that the cut in front of you is about STEAM staff, right? That is the change that's being voted on, whether it's STEAM or foreign language or art. I would love for you to find a way to make more of those things, right? Whether it happens today or in the future, just to say those are the things that children remember, that they come back to for years. And I may be in the minority in this. I'm not really anxious about the test scores. If the test scores are a little bit lower and my kid is a little more curious, I'm going to see that as a positive trade-off. I will be very happy with that, because those, like, the curiosity, the problem solving, sensitivity, learning new ways to look at things, art, language, those aren't things you test for. That's not going to show up in Infinite Campus for me to see. But those are the things I think that you really can't get any other way. Like, we'll read with them some more if that's necessary. But like, I would love for you to find a way to build in more specials time, restore STEAM, whatever we can do. Thank you very much.
That's your 3 minutes. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Bailey Bearcat, 76 Ferris Road, and my brother is a elementary schooler. He's in the 3rd grade right now, and I just wanted to say I'm against the cutting of anything STEAM, because my brother's had a little bit of a struggle throughout his elementary years, and that's caused him to have struggles in his ability to be able to learn and be able to produce the same level of math or reading and writing as the rest of his peers. But he, as of his starting of 2nd grade, he started going to like specific STEAM classes with a couple of his friends, and those classes have helped him improve his reading and improve his writing to the point where, one, now they're legible, and he's at the same ability, and if not further than the rest of his class, which is not saying much. He's a very smart individual, but those struggles that he's had which had kept him back, were then neglected by the STEAM and by the STEAM teachers. And I just feel that's very important for a lot of other kids, because they also have issues like that. And for them to have the same opportunities as other kids is very important. And I feel that STEAM is necessary for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Arav Sahu, 80 Montauk Street. First of all, this is my first time speaking in such a big forum, so I just jotted down my notes from Google Docs. But good evening, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for giving people like us the opportunity. I would like to start by saying the school district has to be fiscally sound, and that's not always easy. The school district has to be focused on academics. That's not always easy. I'm here tonight to support the board's decision to change the STEAM program. The idea of STEAM sounds wonderful and great, and we have to think about how it actually works in our schools. First, this decision is about being responsible with our money. We do not have a lot of money to spend as of right now, and we have to make sure that we can spend it in the best way. If we have the programs, that means we need more administrators, and that costs us money. By stopping the STEAM program, the board is helping to keep and maintain our present classrooms from being cut even more. Second, just because we stop STEAM classes, it does not mean our students will not learn about science, technology, engineering, and art. That is, those are fundamental blocks of education. And just because STEAM is being changed does not mean the students are being refrained from learning those subjects, and that's an important distinction I would like to make. Students do not just become innovative because of STEAM. They're given the opportunity to become innovative. And that will be, currently with the current proposed plan by the board is giving students the opportunity to be innovative. Also, as we think about the future, artificial intelligence is changing. We are in a changing world. We live in a changing society. I am in Fairfield Ward High School and I'm in the debate team. 2 years ago, we did not use Chromebooks in our debate competitions. Now we do. 2 years ago, we did not know what artificial intelligence was. Now some people might use artificial intelligence. This signifies a changing world. Artificial intelligence is doing more things for us, but it cannot replace the ability to think critically and solve the problems and communicate well. By stopping the STEAM program, we can help our students focus on the skills they really need to be successful. We want our students to be able to use artificial intelligence tools and coding, not to use them without understanding, but rather to use them whilst understanding to help them in their future.
Okay,
Thank you so much, and I yield my time.
Thank you so much.
Board, Evan Posture, 812 Mill Hill Terrace. I have 2 children at Mill Hill Elementary. I appreciate everyone has their opinion and their right to say what they want, but clearly the last speaker does not have children in elementary school and doesn't understand their love for STEAM, right? So I have 2 kids, they love STEAM. Every time they have it, they come home, they're pumped up, they're happy. And we also mentioned some fiscal issues. Has anyone seen the email regarding all these tickets that are going to be given out, right? I believe the town of Fairfield is going to be probably pulling in like $3 million a month if you like just do the math based on the tickets that we're going to be giving out. So maybe we can kind of figure something out there. I don't know. And also I'm wondering if there has been any kind of data, what happens when schools cut STEAM and put that money into more math or more reading. Like, are those schools having higher test scores? Are they?
Public comment isn't for back.
I understand. I'm just asking the question. I think the answer is no. So, yeah. I don't know. I would encourage the board to delay this and or vote no. That is all.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah Choi, and I live at 155 Godfrey Road. My daughter does not want me to be speaking right now, but I'm going to anyway. I just want to address Invention Convention specifically. I am a specialist in executive functioning, and the number of executive function skills that are learned and strengthened through the Invention Convention experience is not anything that you can, write down or track or would necessarily show up right away. But these are life skills that these kids are learning through something that is a project that is available to anybody. And when Bailey was talking about his little brother, and his little brother is exactly who I'm thinking of. Like, kids need opportunities to learn and to practice their executive functioning outside of sitting at a desk and in a classroom where they get to go there and they're using executive function skills even just to go to the class and then be in this new environment, work practicing these skills. And I taught a class at Holland Hill, an after-school program, and it was Get Ready for Middle School, and these kids came and they did their invention convention presentation for me in a class on executive functioning, and they showed me right then and there. It was so clear to me that that experience had strengthened their executive function skills. And you know, these are skills, they're the problem-solving skills, and if the kids aren't given creative ways to practice them, then it's a lot harder to strengthen them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other parents? Yes.
I wasn't planning on speaking, so I'll keep this short. Kristen Miller, 58 Edgewood Place. I have a kindergartner at Stratfield and a sixth grader at Tomlinson. The STEAM program at Stratfield offered my neurodivergent, slightly introverted, highly unique and wonderful child the opportunity to stretch into skills and curiosities that he did not have the opportunity to access in all of his other classes, including the advanced track for math that he was in and still is in. My rising kindergartner has found the same level of joy, although not diagnosed neurodivergent, I would not be surprised, and has found the same level of curious excitement and intellectual engagement as a part of the STEAM program this year. At Stratfield, as was mentioned previously, we have STEAM night. That was and remains his favorite activity from his kindergarten year. Not just because he got to experience all of these different experiments in different ways, but he was able to bring his grandparents who could also experience it with him. He could watch other students from all grade levels experiencing these same moments of curiosity and enlightenment and aha with their adult caregivers. And having that example of a real life application for why being excited about being in a classroom with your colleagues, friends, peers, and teachers is an example that we have in other environments, but certainly not available in the same way. So I urge you tonight, please do not vote yes on this agenda item number 6. Please give parents more of an opportunity to understand what other options there are and delay the actual vote until we know that this really is the only choice. Please don't cut STEAM. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Meg Jean Louis, and I live at 255 Buena Vista Road. I've also lived at 44 Brookfield Ave and 82 Coral Drive. I grew up here in this town, went to McKinley, Fairfield Woods, Fairfield High, and what I loved is that there was something for everyone: history, literature, languages, or like me, music and the arts. And today, STEAM is that same bridge. I just came in late, unfortunately, but I heard that, you know, so many kids connect to STEAM. Their creativity gives them innovation. And the reason that I chose to come back here and raise my 3 kids, especially my 2 girls, is because of the incredible curriculum and the representation that they get to see in careers and women who are leading STEAM at our schools. And I know that teachers have a lot of expectations, and if this is truly the best decision that you really believe, you know, I do support you. I understand this is a hard decision, but I really urge you to listen to these parents. We hear from our kids every day, and I support the after-school program at Stratfield, and I can tell you that one class that runs every session is a STEAM-related class. Some of the other sessions, they don't meet their minimum because the kids aren't interested, but STEAM, it runs at every level. I know that this is a balancing act. I listened to the last session, and it did seem like you were moving more towards remove, like decision seemed like it was made. And I just urge you to consider not removing it. There's a lot of parents here who have children. Take a step back if you can, if there's still time. The loss of STEAM, especially engineering, which it seems like that unit is the one that will not be absorbed into other content areas. The loss of the master teachers who have the knowledge and experience to provide engaging lessons, and the loss of potentially a love of learning these subjects for our children. So Yeah. So I just really urge you, I'm not going to go into much more, but, keeping STEAM alive, it keeps creativity alive. It keeps giving kids the chance to grow into their creativity, to grow with confidence. Because not every kid's going to thrive in it, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. It could just be for one child. And we can make the difference by keeping STEAM. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? One thing I should have said as other students were coming up, we don't need to hear your address. So I apologize that I did not interrupt the two boys earlier, but just your name is sufficient.
Hi.
I'm guessing you're a student.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, and I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I've been hearing a lot about like the STEAM cuts and whatever, and I've just been thinking about like the fact that you would be that like these elementary school kids would be losing out on a lot of opportunities to be creative, and like engineering, because that is like a because that kind of limits like the jobs that maybe they want to go into in the future. And by like eliminating those type of programs, you kind of it makes it harder for them to develop like a passion for these things, and it can it can maybe like limit like the jobs that they want to do if they don't if it's like they don't really have like any idea. And also it would help their like cognitive development as well as like building their sense of competence in their abilities, which are skills that are needed in the job industry in the future. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Going once. Okay, if you did not speak to any particular agenda item previously, you will also have a chance before our vote that is your choice. But at this time, so thank you so much for all of our public comment. And at this time, Mr. Hughes, we invite you back up. And
Good evening. Thank you very much for setting aside some time to recognize some of our most dedicated and accomplished high school musicians within the Fairfield Public Schools Music Department. This year, we had 84 students, which is 2 more than last year, selected to participate in the Connecticut Music Educators Association Western Regional Festival. That's comprised of the most talented students from our region of the state. In order to be selected, students had to participate in a rigorous audition process in pursuit of selected spots for their respective ensembles. The spots are very limited and competitive. Unfortunately, a large portion of our music students are also, they're multi-talented, and they're in attendance of the Halo Awards in the Palace Theater in Waterbury tonight. So of the 84 students that were selected, we have about 20 or so students here present. So we do have a graphic for you to read and sort of experience all of the students from each of the high schools that was selected. And I am going to recognize by name the students that are able to attend in person this evening. If I call your name and you can come up here and just stand there, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So from Ludlow High School, we have Elijah Kelly, Gemma, we can hold our applause to the end, Gemma Panaris, Emmeline Swenson, Caitlin Ta. And I'll advance the slide to Ward. We can do them together, like one big musical community. So from Ward High School, we have O.C. Adams, Bailey Barakat, Eliza Choi, Clara Connolly, Tristan Connolly, Thomas Capola, Anaya D'Souza, Jolene Domingue, Johan Domingue, Christian Dope, Ashlyn Gagnon, Ella Judas, Katie Mangurtis, Anjishnu Pal, Arav Sahu, and Julia Sparetta. So those are all of our Western region students for music. Yeah, can you guys condense to kind of make like 3 lines? I would also like to highlight an additional subset of students that were selected to participate in our All-State Festival. These students competed against students from all across the state of Connecticut to earn spots in ensembles comprised of the best student musicians in Connecticut. Our robust participation is a testament to the high standard of excellence the department has maintained for so long. All state students, if you could just step forward when your name is called, please. Eliza Choi, Clara Connolly, Tristan Connolly, Anaya D'Souza, Jolene Domingue, Johan Domingue, Christian Dopf, Katie Mongurtis, and Julia Sparetta. Congratulations. Another photo. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you again for the students for all your hard work. It's an amazing testament. I'm always delighted at the concerts that I'm able to go to. We have some incredible talent, and thank you for all the work, Mr. Hughes, you do to help foster and support that, and to all of our staff as well. We'll now move on to our second presentation, on-demand response. Again, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Tassani.
Thank you. Tonight, we have Ryan Doherty from Enel X North America with us to provide a brief presentation on a demand response program currently being offered through United Illuminating. Enel X, along with Sea Power and Honeywell, are the only three companies currently partnering with UI to deliver this program. Ryan's going to walk us through a short presentation, and afterward, he'll be available to answer any general questions you may have.
Thank you, Superintendent Testani and the board for your time tonight. My name is Ryan Doherty. I'm from Enel North America. Over the past couple months, we have been working with Fairfield's facilities teams to evaluate participating in UI's demand response program. My goal tonight will be to lay out what demand response is, why other districts participate, what would be asked of the district, and then the sustainability benefits of participating. So what is demand response? Demand response is a tool used by UI in moments of grid instability, intense peaks on the grid, to pull back on some of that usage and provide a safe environment for the grid to operate. Large customers from municipalities, manufacturing, hospitals, college campuses are paid and incentivized to reduce some of their usage during these moments. Now, typically it tends to be a great fit for school districts. These events are largely happen only in the summer between the hours of 5 to 7, where schools are largely unoccupied, but are still pulling a significant amount of HVAC load. Now, my company helps coordinate that effort when hundreds or thousands of buildings at the same time reduce their usage in a coordinated effort. The grid can sidestep that small window of instability and return to safe operations when the grid conditions allow. So why do school districts participate? There's absolutely no cost, penalties, or fees of any kind. Fairfield Public Schools will never cut a check to participate. It's structured in a way that if you're able to help during these moments, you're paid to do so. If you're not, your team remains in complete control to continue as business as usual. Again, what we find is that when the events are called, it does fit pretty well into schools' operating rhythm, so we anticipate there to be some pretty solid participation. The amount that you're able to drop, you're paid for based on the difference between your baseline load and then your usage during these moments. That's the big reason why folks participate. Again, absolutely no cost, but pretty significant amounts of revenue. We anticipate just north of $40,000 per summer to be generated from the 14 schools that we identified as potential candidates. Now, beyond the dollar figures, these schools are going to get early warnings of potential blackouts. UI will provide day-ahead warning of these situations. This is good to just communicate across your teams from a reliability standpoint and a safety standpoint, to know that the grid's up against one of these situations and is calling on customers to help in that effort. Additionally, any school that participates will have a free smart meter installed. We use this to see in real time how a school participates during any given event, but your facilities teams and engineers will have access to that interval data 24/7. Gives you, the more you can see, the more you can strategize around. So it'll allow a little bit more of an active engagement in energy usage, specifically the time of use. And again, the better visibility, the more impact projects can have, and you can also look back at the historical impact of those projects as well. And the final piece, this program is only called into action when there's a real threat of a grid emergency or an intense peak. These have serious impacts on the local power grid and the local community. By participating, the school district is showing that we're a good community steward, that we're willing to help out the community when we can, in a way that drives sustainability on the power grid, but also efficiency and community stewardness. So what exactly does this program look like? It is year-round that UI can request that you curtail. Again, you guys remain in complete control of that decision at all times. These events to date, in the couple years we've been involved with the program, have only been in the summer. There are typically, I would say, 6 to 8 events that occur during these times. You get a day ahead warning, and the event window is all between 3 and 7 p.m. with, again, 100% of the events falling from 5 to 7 for 2 hours. So in these moments, schools will get a notification tomorrow at 5 o'clock. There's going to be a demand response event. The game plan would be to pull back on some of the HVAC load. Now, for a 2-hour event, there's not typically a noticeable drift to the temperatures in the school district. So a lot of times it's like turning a cruise ship around in the oceans, but there is an impact on load reduction at the building, but not necessarily. The goal would be to do so in a way that folks don't feel it. Now, the sustainability benefits, what we're avoiding using is the use of peaking power plants. These are power plants that sit dormant for 99% of the year, but are only fired up when the grid's in these emergency situations. If we can drive down that overall grid peak in the summer, it's good for consumers on both sides, commercial and residential. We can avoid infrastructure investment, and essentially it's just using the resources we currently have in a smarter, more efficient manner, and that benefits all. That was all that I had for tonight, so I appreciate your time, and if there's any questions, I'm not sure if there's time available for that, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you so much, and let me turn to the board to see if there are any questions. Anybody? Mrs. Jacobson.
Hi, good evening. Hi, thank you for the presentation. I just have a few questions on this, and some of them are a little bit more about specifics. So you kind of went a little bit quickly. Can you just speak to the process of what actually would trigger you to get in touch with the district in order to implement the demand response activation? What can you be a little bit more specific around that? I know in here it says there's 3 examples, but what are the specifics around that?
Yeah, these are typically weather related. So it is at the discretion of UI when they determine that those grid situations are elevated. Essentially, the idea is there is more demand for electricity than they're able to supply. A lot of times those constraints are driven by 95, 96, 97 plus degree days for multiple days in the row, and the grid can no longer meet that demand. That would then trigger a request to reduce that overall load so that they can continue to operate safely.
Thank you very much for that detail. It also says something in here about wholesale price spikes or unexpected system issues. What are those pertaining to?
Yeah, so again, they kind of paint with a wide brush. This tool is an emergency situation. In the nature of emergencies, they're not always exactly pre-planned, and the nature of those can be wide. Essentially, this would be a situation where a large power generator trips off, or there's a unseasonably warm weather when there's routine maintenance occurring, or, for instance, there's a transmission issue, essentially, I would assume a faulty piece of equipment.
Okay, just a couple more. The slide number 5, where it talks about the events, did we do an analysis? The 5 to 10 events, was that Fairfield base, or are you talking just globally speaking?
Yep, that's a great question. That is just in UI territory.
Okay,
So
so
in
do you have
2025, there were 8 events. In 2024, there were 7 events.
that you anticipated that you would have gotten in touch with us in order to implement something?
Yep, absolutely. So the program did exist. If you guys were participating last year, you would be requested to do this 8 times.
Got it. Okay, and the duration of the 2 hours, that's a 2-hour cap?
No, the event window can be 2 to 3 hours. Again, 100% of the events in the last 2 years have been from 5 to 7 for 2 hours. If it's called earlier, it can't go past 7 p.m. But realistically, it could be called from 4 to 7 as well.
Okay, so the specifics are that it would only happen from 4 to 7 PM. It would never happen during school hours.
3 to 7 p.m., but again, all the events have been from 5 to 7. So the program window is 3 to 7. Most events occur 5 to 7.
Sorry?
Just real brief, because you mentioned it, I believe you presented to us in our facilities committee. We do have the option to say no for a certain building or whatever reason if it was to be during school hours or we have an event going on in that specific location, correct? We won't be penalized for saying no for that one place or that full day. It's just we won't get any credit for it, correct?
100%. So your team could, excuse me, your team could ignore the entirety of the call if you just decided not to participate. Now we've done the legwork, so we anticipate these buildings will be able to participate. But if there was a one-off where you had a community event or a building went under construction, there's a lot of flexibility. So if you're not able to respond, there's no penalty. You just don't capture the revenue available on that day. Performance is averaged across all the events that occur in a program season.
Okay, and just my last question is, and I'm not sure if this is for our guest speaker or someone else, but how does this intersect with Synergistics? They had something on demand response in their presentation as well. BMS controls solar. Like, how do all of these different systems, what is unique about this that, sorry, what'd you say? Oh, um, sorry. How does this intersect with all of the other energy systems? And is there one plan that speaks to all of these systems in one place?
Yes, we worked very closely with the Synergistic folks to develop this plan. So this is the fruit of their labor in what I assume they presented prior. So this is where the rubber meets the road for their demand response planning.
Okay, got it. So they don't implement this themselves. You're the collaborating partner, so to
I
speak.
would certainly say they've been a wonderful partner in terms of the evaluation. We would be reaching out to the facilities teams of Fairfield Public Schools to enact the plan, but working closely with Synergistic to develop exactly what that plan is. They've been a great wealth of knowledge for what schools are good fits and how would they participate.
Okay, I just remember that plan is also about turning off the lights and reducing the load. So there just seems to be a lot of overlap. So I'd like just to have some better understanding at a future meeting, possibly about just how this all intersects with each other. And then also I noticed there weren't any fiscal items in this presentation. So if there could be some follow up in terms of what that base rate calculation is, what that looks like, and what we were talking about fiscally speaking. So thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. Just a few quick questions. You noted that we would receive somewhere around 40K per school that qualified. What? Oh, well, then I was going to say, I think I wrote for standard. Could you just clarify how many of our schools met your criteria?
Yeah, there are 14 schools that we determined to be qualified, essentially large enough that it would make sense to participate. At large, you guys are going to net $35 per KW that you reduce. That $43,000 number that I mentioned is an aggregate of the 1.2 megawatts that we anticipate all 14 schools to reduce based on their peak load and what schools typically are able to reduce.
Thank you very much. And then on the first page of your presentation, you cited wholesale price spikes as one of your grid emergencies. Is that something that you dealt with in the past in 24 or 25?
I will say this presentation, there are large scale, these programs are available all across North America. That may be more important to other different wholesale markets. In UI specifically, it's been driven mostly again by weather related issues and not necessarily wholesale price spikes.
So, okay, I'm going to rephrase. Would that be an issue that okay. I'm just going to skip forward. Are there any other districts in Connecticut that participate with y'all?
Yep, there's a few. Hartford Public Schools is probably the largest that participate across New England. They enroll over 20 schools with us. Tolland School District, Manchester, West Hartford, and then Fall River, New Bedford. I would say dozens of school districts across New England participate.
Any school districts in Fairfield County?
I don't believe so. Quinnipiac and then Connecticut State Colleges and Universities enroll, and they have a couple campuses. Housatonic, but no K through 12 public schools.
Any insight into why that is?
I think it's a small,
Piece.
yeah, it's not necessarily, I think this maybe Bridgeport would be the other candidate. And we haven't engaged with their teams on this effort. So I think the small footprint leads to, smaller potential sites that are available.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. That's all for me.
Anyone else? Mr. Asa?
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, these folks did come to the facilities committee and answered a bunch of our questions, and they've, kind of presented tonight, I think, pretty well off of our feedback. I had a couple questions in the beginning. I think that this seems like at first I was a little hesitant, but the more I've dug into it, it does seem like a good opportunity. It's not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of a $200-something million budget, but it is a potential, and it does seem like it is a good steward in the Go Green initiative, and I think it's worthwhile. I don't necessarily think I appreciate this coming before the board and the facilities committee. While this I don't believe is a voting item, I do appreciate the information.
Mr. Krasnoff?
Also, being part of the facilities committee, I do want to echo a lot what Mr. Asa said. I was very skeptical at first. I asked a lot of questions, including after the presentation, honestly, if we could do it ourselves, which we cannot. I think it is a good value added. The fact that we can opt out at any time, I think, is really key. And even though it's not a lot of money, just the fact that it's at our discretion, I think it's a good move.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee?
Being in the same facilities committee meeting, I agree with Mr. Asa and Mr. Krasnoff. I think the key thing to remember is because it's our discretion, there won't be any, if there's students in the schools and they need to do rollbacks, we can still say no and nothing's done. So there's no interruption as far as that. And the no cost participation is also key too. And it is, again, I think the control still is within our schools.
Mrs. Flynn?
Just a quick follow-up as that we're thinking about it, and I'm thinking about who's utilizing our buildings the most during when those grid emergencies happen. Has there been any conversations with the head of Parks? He's not called the head of Parks and Rec anymore. He has a different title, but Mr. Calabrese, in terms of impact on our playground camps, which use a lot of our buildings, or any of our ESY program. I'm trying to think everything. Everyone's hands went up. Go.
Mr. Asa?
Yes, this was discussed in facilities, and Mr. Papa George was confident that most of the programs are not running during the what has been 100% of the events in the last 2 years from 5 to 7, so that the playground camps are running during the day, so that they did not appear or believe that it would be a conflict.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Lee?
Again, it's our discretion to participate at that time or not. So I'm sure if the schedule is a scheduling conflict and we're told that there's a possibility of this happening, we can just deny it and there's no interruption whatsoever.
Okay, Ms. Flynn?
I just wanted to make sure we were communicating with Parks and Rec.
All right, well, to me, this seems a no-brainer. It's a chance to be a good partner. We have the capability to say no at any time. There is no cost to us. There is only revenue to us. So I see no downside to this. And also I assume that we can exit at any time if suddenly a downside emerged. I do want to thank the Facilities Committee for putting this on their agenda, for hearing it out, talking it through with them so that we got the presentation that we did. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mr. Doherty as well. We appreciate the information and your availability to us tonight. Any final questions, Mrs. Jacobson?
You raised a good point. What is the exit strategy, should we so choose?
Mr. Doherty, have you had somebody exit? And if so, how do they do so?
Yeah, so we do, typically we can drop a site down to 0 if we determine they're no longer a good candidate, or if they go into like a large construction project. There is no termination of the contract for convenience. But you would be able, since there's no penalties or fees for under non-performance, you guys can just determine to stop participating or drop that nomination down to 0, which again would effectively allow you to stop participating.
I'm sorry, did you say that there's not the ability to actually withdraw once you would enroll?
Not for the term. There's no termination for convenience, within the term that we would sign you guys up into the program for.
But also interesting that it's possible that you might exit us. Correct?
I would not see a situation where the program, unless UI decided to stop, cancel the program, which would be highly unlikely.
Gotcha. Thank you. Mrs. Flynn.
So this is a contract. This isn't just like we're like opting into this formally. Like
Correct. Yeah, we signal.
That you're already doing. We're signing a new contract to do this service. Correct.
Correct. And then we signal to UI that we anticipate you guys will deliver 1.2 megawatts in the program over the next 5 years.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Krasnoff.
To use like another example, it's kind of like your home enrolling in an energy efficiency thing, and then you deciding not to be energy efficient. You're going to get zero rebate, but you're still enrolled in the program. That's basically how this is. We can just go to zero. We're still enrolled, but we're at zero.
Okay. All right. So again, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, board members, for the Q&A, and appreciate getting more numbers on this as we move forward. And I definitely appreciate the speed with which you brought it to the full board so that this can get underway. Obviously, not that I am wishing for 90 degrees in the next few weeks, but so that we are prepared should that happen. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Doherty.
Thank you all.
All right. Moving on to the consent calendar, if I can have a motion for the approval of the May 12th, 2026 Board of Ed regular meeting minutes. So moved by Mr. Lee, seconded by Ms. Rinaldi. Any discussion? All those in favor? Excuse me, Ms. Spartanwerper, Mr. Lee, Mrs. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, Mrs. Maxon-Canelli, Mr. Asa, Ms. Rinaldi, Mr. Krasnoff, opposed, abstentions. Ms. O'Neill, thank you. Next, old business, time check. So I'm going to actually ask for, or unless the board is ready to move ahead with this, I was going to ask for unanimous consent of the board to move this later in the meeting until we get a definitive vote from the RTM or word of that definitive vote. If the board doesn't feel the need for that, then we'll pick it up now. So is everyone comfortable with unanimous consent that we will move it to say we can do a check-in? Mr. Asa, you were going to have someone contact you when the vote is taken? Okay, all right, so at this time, we'll say, let's move it after item 7B. We'll check in again at that point. So we're going to move on to new business, item 7A, approval of ED 099 authorized signature change form. Recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the authorized signature change form for ED 099 agreement for child nutrition programs. Moved by Mrs. Jacobson, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. And Mr. McNary, if you'd like to just briefly explain, or not briefly.
Sure. This is just for the nutrition program. The interim director was a signer on this. We're going to change it from the interim director to me. And that way I can log on to the portal for the state and log all our reports and so on.
Are there any questions? Okay. Since this is a procedural item, I don't believe we go out to the public on this. So if there are no questions, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to the first reading of policy 3453, student activity funds. And as you can see, this is one of the policies that came before the result of the audit. This is one of the group of 2004 policies which have never since been touched. But as you can see that the policy committee, this has gone back and forth a few times, that we come out with a version now which is far more robust, reflective of our work, protective of the funds raised. And so I don't know, Mr. McNary, if you'd like to speak any further to the phrasing and where it came from.
Sure. So this really kind of takes a lot of its spirit from the law, General Statute 10-237. it requires that there be a treasurer who we say will be a finance director or designee. And essentially the spirit of this is you can't spend money for things that you didn't collect that money for. And that is the whole purpose behind these student activity funds. So like I said, this is really kind of pretty close to the law. I think the law is very specific and very intentful, and I can just take any questions.
Okay, any board members with any immediate questions? I know one question that we asked in policy, and I'm not sure that all of you would remember this, but did you get a count on just how many student activity accounts we have between the two schools? Because that is a tremendous job before you.
Yeah, so there are a lot. There are, I would say hundreds. I would qualify that by saying they don't all have large balances in them. When this came up, it was the end of the school year. My tact for proceeding forward to look at these funds and just kind of see what's in them and just clean up things a little bit will be to send a spreadsheet with a list of the funds. These are your balances. We want to confirm that the custodian we have in the system is correct. We want to confirm that the intended use that's listed on the description is correct. And then from there, we can proceed. If there's any funds that, we don't expect to be used, if we can transfer those to another activity, assuming it's allowable. But we need that feedback from departments because this does say that the funds do live with the schools really. So we need their feedback and their partnership to do that.
Okay. Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much. Just for clarity for myself, we don't only have student activity funds at the two high schools. Are there student activity funds throughout all high schools?
No, just in the policy meeting, those were like two that I used as an
As examples, but those hundreds of funds cover our elementary schools, our middle schools, our high schools, and a variety of different.
The high schools do have a lot. But like I said, that's just a list of every fund that's listed. It's not indicative of the balance.
It's not indicative that it's only for secondary. This is for every, I just don't want to.
Yes.
Think that it's not for K through 12. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Jacobson.
Just quick technical question for you. It says shall establish, and so I was just clarifying that the ones that are already established don't need to be reestablished due to this policy. This is like going forward for any new. It's not a reestablishing of the existing ones.
No, that would be the overseeing part.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarification that we weren't needing to go through a reestablishment. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to refer back to Mr. Asa. Any word?
From what I understand, they're reading the motion and waiting for an amendment on something nothing to do with us.
Okay,
So
but there has not been a vote.
No.
Okay, so again, I will ask for unanimous consent to move item 6A, and I'm just going to say after, let me get the right number, 7F. So we can go through these policies and then check in again, if everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Magneri. All right, so these next four were kind of tackled in policy in a chunk. But first reading of policy 4140, 4240, compensation and related benefits. This is enclosure number 6. Papers are all askew. Okay, so this is one that we did after the audit reconsider already, but then looked to make additional changes to encompass more of our employees. And so any questions on this one? Mrs. Jacobson.
Hi, thank you for bringing this forward. This is a topic that I know we've been talking about for a really long time, so I appreciate tackling it this. I just had a couple of questions on this. From the audit, did the policy committee have the audit with them when they went through this policy? Like the recommendations from the audit on this issue?
Well, so what had happened with this one, so the audit, I guess we adopted it, but hold on, let me check which one it was.
Which had to do with us adopting a formally written summary of benefits.
Yeah.
They gave the town example. It's 8 pages. It went through all sorts of things like funeral leave and sick leave and vacation days and.
Right, the sticking point policy had been both 4140, it's actually the next two policies, enclosures 7 and 8. That was where in our summer meeting, Mrs. Jacobson, with yourself, Mrs. Guernsey, and I, where we had begun the topic of what about contracts for our central office employees. In the meantime, we went ahead and actually approved this policy 4140. But in going back to that and finally trying to capture, that work with Mr. Testani and Attorney Stephen Sedor, we figured out where, well, not we, they figured out where the language needed to be housed within each of these three policies. So this had already been voted out as a result of the audit. As you'll notice that this one is not a 2004 policy. We took care of this in September of 2024. But in looking at the next two policies and deciding what language belonged where, this one needed to come back up.
Gotcha. So just to clarify, and maybe this is through you, did we actually post on our website the standardized summary of benefits somewhere for the specific bucket of, did we actually follow through with that recommendation?
I'm unclear on which recommendation. This was just a 2004 policy that needed readoption. We didn't make any changes.
Okay. I'm just a little unclear. So this has nothing to do with contracts for our central office administrators who currently don't have any or who haven't historically had them?
It does. Where we had been talking about we need contracts were when we were looking at the compensation and related benefits, insurance, and leaves and vacations. So where does it get informed to our staff?
Right.
And that's where this policy that we had already approved, we said that's where, as you can see here, shall prepare and issue contracts.
Yep.
That this was the place, even though we'd already approved that, this was where that needed to be housed.
But that's new language. That's not pre-existing language.
Exactly. So the language that we approved in September of 2024 is the stricken language in black. We just readopted it.
Right.
It was only when we finally got into the weeds on assuring or pursuing the interest in having actual contracts that we thought might have been found in leaves and vacations or the benefits and insurance that actually it needed to be here.
Okay, so I'll get clearer, and this might be just for the next meetings. We're not voting on this tonight, so maybe there just needs to be a little bit clarity, and this might be for our CFO. But this part that I'm questioning is the such contract shall forth with each employee's compensation, benefits, and other terms, et cetera, including but not limited to the evaluation process for each employee. So my question basically is, do we have that standardized for this bucket of individuals, or is this anticipated to be, well, for you it's this, and for you it's that, and for you it's this? That's what I'm looking to avoid.
I don't believe there's anything standardized, but I don't know, Mr. Testani, if you could speak
Like
to
the
that.
audit basically said, we, the Board of Ed, were to adopt this thing that's similar to the town that had all of these standardized things. Of course, salaries can be different and things like that,
Right.
but like you get 10 days, but you get 25 days, or their contribution to the health insurance, meaning that was the recommendation that we formally adopt a written summary of benefits so that it would be clear and that it be posted on the website. That's the piece that I'm trying to get at.
Mr. Testani, can you speak to that further, or can we get back?
Yeah,
If we need to get back, that's totally fine.
yeah, I'm just gonna say that
We're not voting on it tonight,
because
though.
there's different levels of unaffiliated staff members.
Well, right, so that's why that long page for the town, they address all of that in that 8 pages. So in other words, I'm just looking, did we create that 8-pager for the BOE?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much for bringing this before us. We, when I was serving on the finance committee, Ms. Saxel came before us and presented the audit. So I'm trying to make my questions succinct. Is there a way that we could get some kind of information from Mr. Sedor on how that audit informed the recommendation of these policies? Because to Ms. Jacobson's point, I'm kind of parsing through this, trying to figure out where the audit fits, and I assumed it would be much more obvious. And there's kind of things in here that I think bump against each other. So do we have a legal responsibility to implement the audit as presented to us by the town, or can we take the recommendation? I would like some clarity from Mr. Sedor. Do we have to do the whole, that audit recommendation? How does that all, we got that recommendation, this is not entirely that.
I don't think any of our conversation in policy ever used the phrase legally obligated. It was the clear wish of the town that both to protect the district and to provide clarity that something like that be done, but there was nothing that I recall binding about the audit. That hasn't been any part of our conversation. So,
Yeah, I listened to the policy committee meeting. It was just a little not shocking. I found myself kind of yelling at the recording from my past information from the audit and how it was presented to us and kind of some of the information that was in between. Like, I found that there were like I would love Mr. Sedor's opinion how he got here.
so just to be clear, how did the audit inform these policies is the question I'm asking.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Krasnov.
I just want to bring up again, I still think the full board should be presented in the audits, not just one committee.
Duly noted. Okay. Any other questions on policy 4140? Okay, thank you. Next up, first reading of policy 4144, 4244, compensation and related benefits insurance. Any questions from the board? Obviously, you could see that the language change is significantly different, more robust. Any questions? And as Mrs. Jacobson pointed out, this is a first read. Okay. Next up, a first reading of policy 4150, 4250, leaves and vacations. Any questions? Mrs. Flynn?
I would have that same last question for Attorney Sedor.
I will say I'm not sure that this policy isn't pertaining to the same set of employees, but regardless, I will ask him. Regardless, I'll ask him the question. Mrs. Jacobson. Oh, is it okay, Ms. Flynn, if I move to Mrs. Jacobson?
Yes, of course.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson.
I just have a technical question for you, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly. So in the first sentence where it says shall be, you following me? First sentence, shall be entitled to full-time 12-month and part-time employees who are not covered by a contract or collective bargaining agreement, which is probably where this bucket, but that's not my question, shall be entitled to paid vacation, forth in this policy. Jump down to holidays. Only full-time employees shall receive holidays with pay. So I just want to make sure I wasn't reading a conflict.
I think that's the difference of paid versus unpaid. You can get a holiday and not be paid for it.
It just says shall be entitled to paid vacation and holidays, full-time and part-time. And then jump down to holidays, it's only full-time. So I just want to, for legislative intent purposes, you're referring to the as set forth in this policy and then not shall be entitled to paid part.
So would it be, am I correct that my question, and again, I want to be very clear, this is not the kind of tweaking that the policy is going to do. I'd be going right to Mr. Sedor. Are you looking for and or?
Either the first sentence only refers to full-time, and then you created the new sentence for the part-time, or you take out that part that shall be entitled to pay vacation and holidays as set forth because holidays are not included. See what I'm saying?
I got it. At least I believe I do.
Yeah.
And if I don't,
And if
you'll let me know.
If I'm being very technical on that, then fine. I just wanted to bring up for legislative intent. And I just thought I got a little confused for a second.
Got it.
Thank you.
Hold on. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay. And then moving on then to first reading of policy 4151.9, 4251.9, absences and leaves military. This was another one of our 2004 policies, which we already readopted, but in the course of all of this work, so it involves significant language changes. So Mrs. Flynn?
If anyone from the policy committee could just explain the rationale for changing the word employees in the top section to in the bottom new language, professional employees certified by the state of Connecticut, and how that would impact our staff.
I will definitely say this is not one we spent a lot of time wordsmithing. This was definitely one from the attorney. So we didn't have a problem with that phrasing, but I can question him on it.
I very much have a problem with that phrasing. To me, that phrasing says that only our certified teaching staff would be entitled to this. And I find that to be incredibly out of line with my values, incredibly less than a day after Memorial Day. The idea that any of our staff would not be welcome back with their exact same schedule, whether they are part-time, full-time certified, I don't care. If they work for the Fairfield Public Schools, I would like them to be honored when they come home, and I would really love to add budget to do more than that. So I would definitely be looking to change that language. I don't know if it was unintentional, but I would love to know if there's anything that that caused that, or if it was just ill-intended.
I think it was a reflection of practice and law, but I will regardless inquire further. Ms. Spartanwerper.
Just as a member of the policy committee, I wanted to say that that would be completely unintentional. And that we were told, the language came from the attorney, and I totally think it's a great idea that we go back to the attorney for clarification, but I completely agree that anybody who serves our country should, of course, be honored and welcomed back. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Any other questions? Mr. Asa.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, maybe when you ask where it says further any such employee, if that is covering the others, but
I don't know that it would, because I think the such is an explicit reference there, but again, I will ask. Pardon me while I take some notes.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, anyone, Mrs. Jacobson?
Sure. So I kind of just like the way it is, to be honest. So I would like to understand why we need to make this change. I just kind of love it the way that it is. It's pretty clear and simple. But the salary piece is the question that I have for follow-up, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly. It talks about vacation, holidays, privileges, or otherwise, et cetera. However, in the striked out language, it says that those people that are returning would be at the salary level to which they would have been entitled to had their employment by the district not been interrupted by the period of military. I don't see that carried forward here in this language. So in addition to supporting the notion that this should apply to all of our employees, regardless of certified status, part-time, full-time, et cetera, to have their position reinstated or something that's equivalent, I understand that, but also the salary. So that's my feedback on that. And then also the second piece is I assume that this is all in adherence to all of our bargaining unit contracts, but pardon? So I believe that some of our, the administrator contract, I just started looking to see, and they do have this exact language that's being stricken out here. So just to check on if all of the bargaining unit contracts, or maybe some language that might be added, that we do usually see sometimes in these policies, that or in accordance with their respective bargaining unit agreement, or some language like that, so that we're making sure we're not conflicting with anything that might already exist. So thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Krasnoff.
It appears to me that last sentence kind of covers both, but I would definitely get clarity on it.
We'll check. Mrs. Flynn.
One more follow-up. Just if we could get a legal reference on it. I thought there's no legal reference on the policy. You referenced that it might be legally.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Teresa? Oh, different matter? Okay, hold on. All right, so thank you. I'll see, just as a quick aside to Ms. Spartanwerper and Ms. O'Neill, I will see what I can find out from Mr. Sedor ASAP to know if this is something that I have answers for everybody, or if we can do some wordsmithing in policy if needed. But I will get to him as quickly as I can, okay? Any other questions on these? So I had an original dream of including some of these in the consent calendar. Not so sure about that anymore, but thank you. Mr. Asa.
Your hand was up. Do you have a question?
I was just to the agenda item that we had moved.
That's what I'm going to
Yeah, no, I was
say right
making
now.
Yes, the RTM unanimously approved the budget, holding our $2 million reduction 15 minutes ago. So we should move forward with our adjustments.
Thank you so much. So at this time, we are returning to agenda item 6, old business, approval of amendments to the 2026-27 Board of Ed operating budget. Recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the 26-27 Board of Ed operating budget adjustments per enclosure 3. May I have the motion? Mr. Lee, seconded by Mr. Asa. Okay, so at this time, The intention, unless somebody stridently objects, is to go line item by line item according to enclosure 3. Noting that we have an absolute dollar amount, which any of this work must equal. So as it is right now, we are at exactly 2 million. So any additions have to have an offset. This is not the time where we can say we just trust staff to figure it out for us and bring us back with a recommendation. Now is the time for that work. So we noticed this work 2 weeks ago, and so now we'll go through this at this time. Thank you, Mr. Magneri, for joining us at the table. So item number 1, I'll be reading on the far right the proposed amendment language that we move to reduce $659,050 from the staff salaries budget, major category 1, summary object 101, department 60 to reflect changes in FTEs. Moved by? Don't I have to do them all as motions? Yes? Because we're, or are we just discussing them all? I believe we do a vote per each. Right, but don't we usually vote on each one? I'm moved by the category heading, which says I move to.
I understand that, but the motion on the table is that we approve the operating budget adjustments per enclosure 3. So
Right,
does
but we
that-
could, this kind of gets back to your point, Mrs. Flynn. So I think, well, the motion's already
yes.
been moved.
So we can amend the motion.
And I don't remember last year well enough. I know my intent had been to vote each one
Yeah.
for affirming that line in enclosure number 3.
Can rescind the previous motion. Whoever made the previous motion can rescind the motion. Yeah.
Right now, it's been moved, so now the whole board owns the motion. So
We basically just want to restart over. We didn't vote on it, though.
No, but what I'm saying
It's
is.
only been moved.
it-
So now
yes,
there's discussion of the motion.
Yes,
So
we
I
would
could say,
discuss-
I want to move to amend.
If you need to, or
Yeah.
you go with what's presented.
Meaning we don't want to vote on this in one big vote. We want to do the line item votes, right?
Well,
which is what I thought the process had set up to do that.
It was.
Um,
It was just what was put on the agenda. The per the enclosure piece, I think, is causing the confusion.
But isn't that the wording, the standard wording we've always used?
I don't know about always.
Absolutely. It's, Mrs. Flynn, did you have different wording?
I'm working on it.
I'm pausing a moment while Mr. Magneri's checking last year's. I believe it was the 2nd June.
And also just because, I'll follow up.
Mrs. Jacobson?
We were asked to put, well, I mean, I did, but also for the staff too, like who took the time to create, because to your point, you had asked that these motions be put in here, otherwise we wouldn't need that column, so to speak. You know what I mean? It would just be this one document and off you would go.
yeah, I think we can move forward. The question is just how do we word the motion since there's a motion on the table that says to approve it as per enclosure 3. As long as we've done it, if that's how we did it last year, then I'm okay moving forward with it that way. I just want to make sure that
No, you're right. You can't have a motion within a motion. So this would have to be, again, I'm just waiting at this point for Mr. Magneri.
Probably just make a motion to rescind the previous motion.
Yeah, but let's see what the last year's motion was because we don't want 16 motions added to the agenda with a 2/3 vote for each. Okay.
So on the 6/24 meeting, the language was approval of superintendent's 25-26 recommended budget adjustments. and the recommended motion was that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's recommended 2025-2026 budget adjustments. And now I'm trying to look at the minutes.
Okay.
But we're still. But that still then precludes voting on line by line. We've got a motion on the table, whether it's per enclosure 3 or not. All right, so my take on this, we can't have motions within
Well,
motions.
let's just wait and see what the
Yeah.
minutes were.
It doesn't have anything in the minutes that I actually
We
don't.
definitely had, because we've had amendments to some of these things on the night of the vote, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we definitely have done motion by motion, because some people made amendments, like I put a playground on, if the number named, or we definitely have done it that way, because people made amendments to what was on this sheet at the time. So, yeah.
Each one individually? Okay, hold on one second. Mrs. Flynn?
At this point, just because of the confusion on the agenda, would it be pertinent just to make a motion to move agenda item, I don't have my agenda in front of me now, to a date certain of June 2nd, which I believe is our next meeting?
No, that's the awards. It'd be June 9th. I'd like to give them a minute to resolve
Okay.
this.
I'm just gonna say June 9th, we've done business. We did business on the ward stage before we've done votes.
No, I understand that it
I'd
is
be
an
happy to
option.
do
I
it.
understand that it is an option.
Yeah, like it's.
It's not early. This is our normal timeline for voting on the budget. We consider budget adjustments the first meeting in May. We vote on them the second meeting in May. That is our pattern. To break from that is what's unusual.
Didn't he on June 24th?
We did, and there was a cause for that, which I'm trying to remember, but that was highly unusual that we did that. Tell you what, at this point, I'm just going to call for a 5-minute recess. We'll see what the recommendation of staff is. So this is a good time for a quick break. So we'll resume at 8:41. Okay, it's 8:41. We're out of recess, and my apologies for the brief bit of confusion. I honestly think it's what we let move forward as the top of the column I moved to that made it, that kind of threw this into a little bit of a tizzy. We are in fact voting in its entirety on enclosure 3. We can at this time make amendments or make suggestions for amendments. I do just want to read down, for the sake of the public, anyone just listening, the notes column, which is the 4th column. So that we're looking that via these budget adjustments, eliminating 11.0 STEAM gifted positions, shifting 4.0 to gifted, shift 3.0 to the MRT in Stratfield, McKinley, Holland Hill, and then eliminating 4.0 from the budget in this category. Adding 1.0 math resource teacher in 3 schools referenced above. Increase appropriation to the account for music stipends, which actually, let me pause on that one. Mr. Testani, if you can explain further what those music stipends are.
Okay, I just want to clarify something that was said earlier. And I reiterate, and I will say again, there is not one teacher because of the reduction in STEAM that is losing their position. 4 are retained for gifted, 3 are being shifted to MRTs at schools that need additional math resource help, and 4 have all been placed in elementary classrooms because of their certification. So no one has lost their job due to the 11 STEAM gifted, the shift there. So just want to be clear there. The $8,500, we have 2 stipended positions. Mr. Hughes, similar to other districts, $5,000 stipend is for the instrument management, and $3,500 is to a music teacher to handle the music library.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Jacobson, for bringing that forward and for coming up with the offset, which I trust that you confirmed with staff. Mr. Testani, the decrease of the certified staff replacement line.
They gave me.
Okay, thank you. Additionally, that we're aligning our the health insurance with updated state partnership rates and I'm not gonna read all the amounts, and reflect reduction in benefits for change in FTEs, aligning the estimated pension contribution with actuarial reports, reducing in the category to reflect the pre-purchase of the textbooks, reduce appropriations to reflect DRIP funding for the North Stratfield Elementary School Security Project, the Osborne Hill Elementary School Security Project, and Roger Sherman. Increase appropriations to reflect general fund support for the Roger Ludlow Middle School Security Project, and increase appropriations to the general fund in support of the McKinley Elementary School Security Project. Finally, reducing our capital outlay to reflect the pre-purchase of Chromebooks, and reduce capital outlay to reflect the pre-purchase of the vehicle budgeted. If you will recall, we discussed those at our last meeting. So at this time, any discussion on any of the line item details here or any suggested amendments? Mr. Krasnov.
Just quick clarity question on item 5, the extracurricular music stipend. I believe that was part of the eliminated positions duties. Is that correct, Mr. Testani? So we're making up the gap that you found from that?
Correct. So that is to handle the instruments that come in and out that need repairs for students, and then the music library for the teachers that need access to the catalog.
Excellent. So we should now be whole. I know there were a lot of concerns and people were, from the public, were asking about the positions to be reinstated. We feel comfortable now with this stipend. There'll be no gap in any of the work that was being done previously.
Correct. We followed the model that neighboring districts have used for many years in how they manage instrument rentals and the music library.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Just to piggyback on that, I had called Mr. Testani about this issue and a couple other things to just talk about things in this budget sheet. One of them was this item, and that one we had voted in January, and I had tried to restore the music secretary position agreement that they would be monitored for the rest of this year, circle back in June, see where we're at, what was the need is. What I was told that these two positions are the district inventory manager and the district music librarian. We're filling some of that gap. And so I made this motion to include it. The staff provided me with the offset and where they felt that could become, just so everyone is clear, the elementary, that bucket that it's going into, because I had originally thought I would add 2 new lines to the budget book in this area, the department, that as you see in the motions. However, it's just one thing to include for the 2 different positions, but you will see the bucket. So when you, in the budget book, the extracurricular music, right now, that bucket says elementary. That elementary piece is gonna come out of the budget book because things that are actually in there right now, this won't only pertain to elementary. So just for full transparency, in the budget book, where you see the word extracurricular music elementary, the elementary piece is like gonna go away. Because this isn't just for that. So I think staff are working me with us, and what my expectation is, I know, there's still a lot of concern out there on this, so I trust that Mr. Testani or Mr. Hughes or the appropriate staff, will let us know as we go into next year if there's a continuing need for additional resources and that we would take action on that earlier than prior, just, so right now this is where we're at and what's happening. But I trust that if anything comes up from the department or the teachers that you'll let us know and we can address it earlier than later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Krasnov?
I had one more question that some members of the public asked about, and I thought I had the answer, but I wanted to have you give the correct answer. The reason that the MRTs are going to Stratfield, McKinley, Holland Hill isn't about the number of students in the overall school. It's the head count that are in tiered intervention or accelerated math, correct? That's why we need the extra FTE.
Correct. They have a higher demand right now, and that could shift in a year or 2.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you very much. In terms of those stipended positions, are those currently filled or is that for next school year?
No, those have been posted. Teachers applied and they've been chosen by Mr. Hughes.
So are they operating as of July, like, are they doing that work right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of number one, following off Mr. Krasnoff's question, just some of the rationale, I'm struggling with this, a lot of the schedule change. Number one, because it was not coming for us, it wasn't our purview. I find that a lot of this, we're coming from different directions on, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, where was the rationale to not continue with the MRTs and to eliminate, is that support not needed at the other school? I think I'm just at the point where I'm struggling with losing steam and then the lack of, I'm just struggling with this. So maybe just your rationale, Mr. Testani, through the chair to Mr. Testani.
I just need some clarification.
Yeah.
These are additional MRTs at the 3 schools. All the rest have maintained their MRT. We just added an additional math support at those 3 schools based on the number of students, as Mr. Krasnoff mentioned, that are in tiered intervention.
And was there any thought about any kind of support positions versus redistributing those 4 positions? I mean, I got quoted. I was one of those people who said that I don't want, we very much were, this elementary school schedule was something that I felt uncomfortable with. I had voiced that in curriculum committee. I have voiced that at this table. I still have incredible amounts of reservations about this, especially without a plan. To hear certified staff say to us that they have concerns about curriculum rewrites, to not have a plan for invention convention, I don't understand the rush. And I understand that some people have comfort levels. I currently do not. So I'm just trying to get some rationale around it.
So we do have a plan. We're almost completed with it that Ms. LaSalle has submitted for review. It looks excellent as a way to cover invention convention next year. We will be sending something out prior to the end of the school year to rising 5th grade parents so they can plan for a 22-week program after school in each of our schools that will allow students to come and participate in the invention convention. Just to give you a brief overview, it'll be once a week for those 22 weeks, somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes. We're just kind of flushed that out. So Ms. LaSalle has put together an excellent plan for participation for students that choose to. And as far as the additional support, I'm not quite sure in what area that we're asking.
There were some discussions around because the STEAM curriculum needed to be absorbed by the classroom teachers, that was there a possibility of if throughout this process there was staff support needed for those classroom teachers to be able to implement this curriculum, that would be something that the staff would look at. That was how it was translated to us, a curriculum. A lot of the neighboring districts that we saw might not have had a STEAM program, but they did have science support. I can't remember the terms of the positions, but things like that. And those were all discussions that were in curriculum that were like to come. So for me, like I said, I've said this from the beginning, the process for this is, for me, has been a little backwards. Like, we don't have to vote on it, but now I have to vote on it. And when I have to put my name next to something, I have to really believe, and see. And just for me, I'm not saying that I'm not there. I fully appreciate the intent, but like, for me, I like the horse before the cart.
I'm okay. One of the things I do want to say and clarify that there was some misconceptions that this is just being more math and reading. We're just making dedicated time for science and social studies, which has been one of the two of the subject areas that have been neglected as a result of lost minutes. So to say that, the science curriculum is absorbing STEAM, no, it's taking back what they couldn't fit into the time that they had. They're taking unit back. So I think it's just a redistribution back to the folks that were teaching it prior. None of the STEAM teachers are science experts. Let's be very clear. They're all elementary teachers, no different than the classroom teachers. So they don't have any specialized training. They don't have no science content training. They're not 7-12 like our middle and high school teachers in the area of science, biology, chemistry. There is no STEAM certification. So I just want to be clear with everyone that we're just bringing and recapturing the time that should be done in the classrooms. We send science kits for every unit to every classroom in the district for teachers to teach the science curriculum with a lot of hands-on materials. They are vastly returned across the district untouched because there is not enough time in many of the classrooms across the district. So this is just going to give us at least a baseline next year. And then we can make some alterations based on the feedback that we see. We would just want the existing science curriculum taught with fidelity across all our classrooms. And I think that's a great starting point.
Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you very much. And I absolutely agree that we need consistency and fidelity. I think my concern is we know the experience. I personally know the experience that I hate talking about anecdotals, but I know the impact it had having to get into a classroom with hands-on, and I still continue to have concerns about how our classroom teachers are going to be able to implement that, not only because of class size, but because of, one adult in a classroom. I have concerns about it, so I continue to have concerns.
Okay. Mrs. O'Neill?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm also struggling with the elimination of the STEAM teachers. I know the night that we discussed this as a full board, there were a lot of points brought up. I think it was Mrs. Jacobson that brought it up, and it was something that came up on the teacher feedback, that it would be wonderful if the STEAM teachers could almost act as science teachers. And we saw that asked, like I said, by our teachers. I know that's done in some neighboring districts. And when we are making these changes, I just think that's something we should be able to discuss as a board.
Well, I don't disagree. That would be a nice luxury to have, but when we're being cut $2 million and that would add 11 science teachers to the district, one at each elementary school, we're looking at upwards of another $1.5 million on top of the 2 million that needs to be restored.
And just to piggyback on that, as a reminder of process, Ms. O'Neill, you absolutely can submit an amendment. It just has to dollars match. Okay? Mrs. Jacobson?
I'm going to give that a minute to breathe. The maintenance projects, thank you for correcting that because these are amendments due to the DRIP grant, but just follow up from our Q&As from January. Did we get that cost grant that you had talked about?
We have not gotten the COPS grant, no.
Oh, was it COPS?
COPS, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
I thought it was cost.
No.
I don't know, whatever it
We-
was. I knew it was a C.
No, we are seeking out new grants.
I was just wondering because
I
I
want to
would,
call him Assistant Chief. He's no longer law enforcement. Mr. Paul Grech is working with Teron Jones up at the state. There are some other grant opportunities that we feel confident maybe sending some dollars our way.
no worries. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to pay for something if that grant had come
No,
in, so that was good.
We have never gotten it and we continue not to get it.
Okay, so back to some just basic questions. The question on why those three schools was already answered. I'm going to go back to the STEAM for a second. Based on what I just heard, and this might be a curriculum issue, maybe not appropriate, but just some of my understanding is to say that something that is an in-school beloved opportunity for 100% of our school population, to take that down to a population that may have the luxury of staying after school for 22 weeks is concerning to me. I know this is the budget vote, but budget pertains to curriculum. So when the science curriculum does come in front of us, I do intend to make a motion to amend it if it's not included by the curriculum committee to have that as part of the grade 5 curriculum period. I will make that motion. That is concerning. I understand where a lot of this came from. In terms of the minutes, it is a fact. There was not enough minutes in the day, especially for 5th grade. However, the approach on minutes versus, some other options is just concerning. So I know we're not going to go line by line here, which I thought that we had, because many of these things, Mr. Testani, I would have voted in favor for. But just to explain some of my thinking on my concern on this, and I think you already know that anyway, so.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point you just made, because in most school districts, the invention convention is part of the science curriculum. So I don't see why we can't do that here as well. It doesn't need to be a dedicated extracurricular or elective course during the school. Yep, I'm right there with you.
Okay, Ms. Barnwerper?
Just to follow up on Ms. Jacobson, as a member of the curriculum committee, I would fully support adding it to the 5th grade curriculum. Losing invention convention has really been a very hard thing to kind of stomach, and I think that that's a great idea. So I would fully support that, and I do support the embedding of STEAM with the hope that we are going to have more science in our schools, and that our children will be getting science for half the year every day for 45 minutes. And I think that's fantastic. And, I do see it as a positive change. And if we can get invention convention in, then I understand we're still losing some, but with the coding that came from STEAM going to library media and the other units going to science, I think if we could save invention convention, it'll be as good of a compromise as we're going to get given the minutes. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Krasnov?
I'm going to take this in a totally different direction. So everyone here at the board knows I do plan to make a policy amendment to our class sizes if that is the will of the board to have that discussion. That being said, I would love to add 2 FTE positions to staffing if possible, from the chair to Mr. Testani. I don't know if we already have 2. I know sometimes we have 1 or 2 embedded already in our budget. I don't know if you can answer that now, or if that's. I can't make a motion unless I know it's needed to be made, and I can't know if that's needed to be made. And
My take on that is that you wouldn't need to make a motion. If we retain on staff, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Testani, if we retain on staff more elementary school positions than we end up with classroom teachers, we don't tend to just let them go August 20th, correct?
No, I mean, right now, we have the potential right now with a couple of vacancies, but there may be a couple of teachers based on enrollment in certain grade levels at certain buildings reduced, but they would go into those open positions that are. But right now, that's all we're doing.
Right.
So my question is.
So we're not holding any in our pocket
Yeah,
right
so
now. No, not
my
right now.
question is, knowing what my proposed amendment may be, should I add 2 FTE to this budget? And if I was to, where would you suggest we try to offset it?
Yeah, I would not do that at this time. because we don't have in our pockets. The only way that would happen is that if we had more sections close than currently budgeted. But we won't know that for a while.
So what's gonna happen if my proposed amendment to that policy was to change? Where would you would just
I would
find the
think you would
budget?
have to propose the offset, Mr. Krasnov. I think to ask staff at 9 o'clock at night to come up with an offset, only because that right now it doesn't appear that it could be done within existing FTE. It would have to come from another major category.
I was trying to avoid that, but okay.
Okay. One thing I do want to just have a little bit of fallback, and then I'll go back to the board. Just one small bit of clarification to Mrs. Jacobson's point. This is a, and the quote was 100% beloved program. We've already had one parent come up here today to say this wasn't so much for my kid, but I recognize the benefit of this. I love the passion we've heard from parents. I don't question this. I find this very Odyssey of the Mind-like, so you know how much I love this and believe in this. But I want to remind every person at this board to please don't misrepresent our discussion. In our discussion, at every turn, I came back to the board and said, if there's something you want to keep, what will you give up? No one offered an alternative to this. Not one member of this board said, cut an art, add STEAM. Cut a music, add STEAM. Cut Spanish, add STEAM. Cut science. Cut social studies. Cut ELA or math. Cut recess enough to add another full. No one offered that. That doesn't mean we were all loving what we were doing. And also, the one thing that a few members of the public alluded to, and that the Board of Ed level is now in the quote was inconsequential. I would completely disagree with that. No, we are not in the phrase in the weeds on deciding this. We're not voting on this, but based on all of the follow-up I know curriculum committee is doing, based on all of our follow-ups with Mr. Testani, based on this being a continued agenda item, I don't think anyone is just putting up their hands saying, oh, there's nothing we can do here. A perfect example is what Mrs. Jacobson did in working with staff to come up with these music stipend positions. Staff is willing, our central office administration and our teachers, when we get feedback that in fact a decision that was made, well, actually, upon reflection, we could use a little bit of support here. I appreciate that collaboratively Mrs. Jacobson worked with staff. I love the idea of these music stipends. I'm very excited to support this part of this enclosure. But I just remind everybody, please don't act like we were powerless. We didn't like this. No one here presented an alternative. No one said, I want to give this up and put this in. And if it's that you did not understand how the 45-minute specials worked in terms of making an organized schedule, which could then work, not these random chunks of time, then you needed to go and spend some time with Dr. Zavajanzik or a member of the curriculum committee to get it explained. But I very much appreciate that staff have heard us, that Mr. Testani has heard us, that the pleas of our parents have been heard. And I think many of us, right now it's mostly Mrs. Jacobson and myself who have put a lot of comments in on the science curriculum document. And both of us have been very adamant about, we want to see this hands-on element to our science curriculum. I don't disagree with a thing that a single parent has said about this, but just, we are in the position to have made certain other suggestions, and parents are in the position. If a parent said, drop PE, I'd rather have STEAM, where's that discussion? You know, we went through a very messy, tough process, and the curriculum committee, listening to your conversations, what you wrestled with in terms of the many, many options. You did yeoman's work for the sake of the board to come land at the recommendation that came forward, and I thank you for that. But just please don't have in the conversation that we didn't have the option, that didn't have the opportunity to present an alternative. That is a false narrative. Mrs. Flynn.
I'm trying to just get my words out in a way that I want to. I very much appreciate the work of our staff. I do feel like when we had discussions about this in curriculum committee, and I respect Ms. Bardenwapper and Mr. Krasnoff, but I vocalized quite often how uncomfortable I was with some of the ways that this was working. I asked and expressed for staff feedback that we didn't get till much later. I asked for a committee. So like, I just, for the record, I don't want to create a false narrative. I also don't want to be misrepresented. So I'm very thankful for those people that did listen to curriculum committee meeting and heard our comments. I appreciate when our community says them, even when I like it or don't. I like to be held accountable. So I just think it's important to say that disagreeing is not disparaging. It's okay to disagree and have a different perspective on this. And right now, I am giving good faith, but the direction of this doesn't, for me personally, feel like it matches our vision of the graduate. And I'm very concerned about it. I want to say that I hope the incorporation of invention convention sounds great, but there are issues that come with that. Now that's an equity issue for me. So, and we also had discussions in curriculum committee about whether it would be more worthwhile to kind of transition invention convention to a more wide science fair that might meet all of our brains and how they work, to Ms. Maxon Kelly's point. I do believe that invention convention is a little niche to that creative engineering piece. Could we expand the offering so it meets more needs? So you can make I remember I made a potato into something that made electricity in some grade sometime. I don't know how it worked, but I did it, and I was a theater arts music brain kid, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can make electricity. It was eye-opening to this day that people can do that. So I just don't want to, I very much appreciate Ms. Maxon Kennelly, the perspective of all 9 of us, but I think we all have 9 different lived experiences with that work, and all of those experiences are valid.
Any other questions regarding enclosure number 3 for our budget adjustments? Yes. Mrs. Flynn?
I anticipated speaking on these each individually. I was anticipating supporting all of these. I'm very thankful for the music stipend. Thank you, through the chair, to Mr. Testani, for addressing that concern that we've heard from our music community about holes that may come from that reduction. So I appreciate that work very much. And for me, I in no way think that we are going to be tech-free overnight, but I have been begging for a technology conversation for this entire school year, and I can't in good conscience vote to fund any more Chromebooks until we have that conversation at this table in front of the public. So I just want the public and this board to understand my vote and where I'm coming from. I am not anti-technology, but I am reaching a breaking point that we are not having the discussions that I think we need to be having at this point. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Flynn, we've already done the purchasing of the Chromebooks. We did that last meeting.
Reduce capital A to reflect the pre-purchase.
Which we've already done.
I understand that, and I voted against it. I'm just stating, I'm
So
trying to.
you want the money to stay in the budget for Chromebooks that we already purchased?
I would, at this point, yeah, I would like to keep the money in that budget possibly for something else, yeah. But I'm not in the place to do it. I thought that these were all gonna, here's the reality. I'm where I am. I'm explaining my vote. This is my time, so that's where I'm at. Thank you very much.
Mr. Asa?
Yeah, just, sorry, Mrs. Flynn, I do have a question, a clarifying question. I understand that you thought we were going to go through these each individually line by line. That being said, you would have been prepared for what to use that 176,759. It sounds, so what was that? I'm curious.
To be just bluntly honest, I knew that I don't believe that I have support in that, so I was going to speak to it, and I'm under the impression that presentation is hopefully coming to us soon. And to be absolutely fair, for me as a board member and as a parent, it's kind of a values vote for me. So I didn't have an intent for that at the moment, for a whole host of personal reasons, and that would have been my vote, and yeah.
So just to be clear, you thought it was going to fail, so you didn't bring forth something that it could go to? Because I'm not saying that I wouldn't have supported it, but just to be clear, you do not have something to bring forward tonight because you thought it was going to fail on votes?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Krasnoff?
Well, that being said, I actually do have something now to bring forward.
So you're making a motion?
I am making a motion to amend. My reasoning is we do.
No, please make the motion first.
Okay. My motion is to remove the reduction of the category to reflect the pre-purchasing of textbooks, $370,850. That would be line number 9. And I would like to then reallocate those funds to elementary school FTE. Line number 9. I would like to make an amendment to remove line 9, reduce the category to reflect the pre-purchasing of textbooks in the amount of $370,850. I would like to then, to that amendment, add 2 FTE to elementary school in the amount of 370,000. Obviously, there's some of the benefits that would have to be worked into that, et cetera, et cetera. If you want, I can ask for a 5-minute break.
A
for
point
that.
of order, this isn't a motion. I'm
Well,
sorry.
hold
Mr.
on, but
Krasnoff.
if I
I
can
don't
just,
know the benefit amounts, and I'm sorry I didn't come prepared with it, but
just to be clear, Mr. Krasnov, that line is a negative. So we can't, if we're moving a negative to a different line,
well, 'cause
that
we
means you want to allocate the money to
I wanna
textbooks
allocate.
and take the money away from something else.
Well,
You need to go after one of the black numbers,
no, because we're pre-purchasing it with our surplus from this year.
but we've already done
That's
it.
why we're removing it.
Wasn't that part of the budget transfers that we already did?
It's still in the operating budget for this year. Next year, sorry, next year. It's still available funds. You're subtracting available funds by taking the 370. It's still in our approved budget. So we can move some of our surplus that we have $1.4 million.
But that's this year's money.
I understand, but it's still in the book for next year. It's been approved, that money.
Can I make a comment on your, would you mind yielding the floor?
Okay.
Sure.
In all
Because the
honesty,
motion hasn't been
can't-
made.
All right, can we just leave this as discussion at the moment and maybe
Okay.
try to, no, go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Asa.
I don't know the benefit.
My suggestion would be we leave this alone, and that if we make a policy change that in fact changes the number of FTE, we will figure it out, as we always have. So let's leave it alone. And if we make a policy change as a board, the will of the board, then we will shift money accordingly so we can make it work.
I wish we had this discussion prior with that policy.
Well, I wish we hadn't been discussing this unprepared motions.
I
So
hear
and
you.
that would have happened. So I think
100%.
there's a path forward here that no one's saying we're not going to talk about this in the future, but let's talk about it in the future. And if we pass it, we'll deal with it fiscally when it hits. And I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out for 2 FTE if we did it.
I'd rather move the $370,000 back into the black. We're here now.
All right, so let me ask, Mr. McNary, did
I
you
was
have a
just-
comment?
Yes, if you remove the cut of 378.50, your cut is not 2 million anymore, so you'd need to find another offset.
Right. That's what I tried to explain.
The only thing I'll say with doing that is that if you don't want to use kind of like, you have to look at this surplus as one-time savings. You don't, it's not kind of built into our budget, so you would kind of be funding a recurring expense with one time. So that's why I would just
I don't want
advise
to.
against that.
I don't want to fund a recurrent expense. I know we have tons of maintenance expenses. There's a bunch of things we could put it to. I'm just trying to get the money back for 2 FTE. We have a surplus. I want to lower class sizes, and this is the opportunity to do it.
All right, so here's what I would ask. Mr. Krasnoff, if you could craft, just if you could literally write it out, and so I'll open it up to discussion about anything else. Hopefully somebody has something else to discuss, and then when Mr. Krasnoff is ready, he can read it and hand it to the secretary. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, it's
So
fine.
just literally write it
The only
out.
issues, I guess I'll just reinstate the money and put it to the FTE bucket, but I don't know what the benefits.
If you want to
would
move
be.
next to Mr.
Do
McNary
you want
and
me to
work
do it
on the
with you?
wording. Okay, so while Mr. Krasnov is pursuing his intent, opening it up to the rest of the board, Mr. Asa.
Yes, and this is further discussion on this. We're talking about class size policy. Even if that class size policy came before us, we're we're talking about fiscal year 27. So we're talking about adding FTE for a potential reduced class size that wouldn't be till FY 28, correct?
No, I mean, for next year, if we voted.
So we would have to, policy would have to come out with a revised policy to the board and it be voted, and that we make this change now while we're formulating classes, and I don't see how the timing would work for next school year.
Well, just as, so that people understand a little bit where this is coming from, I had promised back when we voted on class size policy, I said that we would take this up again. I referenced that again, I think it was in March, that we would be taking it up again. So the plan is that at the first meeting in June 9th, the full board will be having a discussion and deciding if there is a will to amend. The policy committee is not going to do anything because the three of us it would not be, quite frankly, fair to the three of us in policy to just start coming up with some language without knowing the intent of the board. I believe that's where Mr. Krasnov, when he references his intent to amend, it's because it is coming up for discussion June 9th.
But so we're really thinking that a topic this big is gonna get talked about June 9th and voted on June 20-something, 24th, and implemented over the summer for next year's class sizes.
That would be up to the will of the board if they wanted it to do it. In other words, I'm not saying what
Okay,
the board
I'm
is going
not,
to do or not.
I'm just trying to understand the timeline here because I've been on this board for almost 9 years and I've never seen a topic that big move that fast. So I'm not saying it can't, but I also don't think it's something that we should rush. I'm totally looking forward to the conversation, but I don't understand why we're rushing everything here.
Mrs. Jacobson.
And why only
Oh,
2
I'm sorry.
FTE? Where did 2 FTE come from?
Yeah,
We've
so-
talked about 9 potentially. So this is just a complete waste of our time, to be honest with you.
Okay, well.
It is an absolute waste of our time,
Mr.
Mr.
Asa?
Krasnov,
Mr.
because
Asa?
we've
Mr.
talked about
Asa?
9 FTE.
Okay, all right. All right, we're not going to have this kind of conversation across. Everyone has the right to make a motion. It's being worked on. We will have that discussion and that vote. Mrs. J, I apologize. Mr. Ace, are you all set?
Yes, but again,
Okay,
I'm open to the conversation, but
I
the
understand.
past conversation has been 9 FTE.
I understand that. Okay, Mrs. Jacobson?
I have a little concern too. So I appreciate the promise was to bring it back. The promise was to relook at that. I appreciate the policies committee's endeavor in keeping their word on that. Now where I have a concern, knowing this new information that I didn't know, I don't know why we're voting on this budget tonight then. Why don't we wait until we have the class size policy conversation and vote on these amendments in June? We don't have to vote on this until our last meeting. Wouldn't it make more sense to have that conversation, see if there actually is going to be an FTE implication, and then vote on next year's budget pertaining to that? I didn't know that this was going to be happening in June. I'm not done. Thank you. But why would we vote on next year's budget if there's a possibility that we're going to need more FTE? Can't we just wait for this, in other words?
Here's what I would say is that I did not know up until 5 minutes ago that this was going to be a topic today.
Oh.
So
But did you know that it could be a budget implication for next year possibly?
I did not know what timeline he would be pursuing or any board member would be pursuing. There have been multiple board members who have talked about it. So
Okay.
I had no idea. So that's
Okay.
keeping in mind, of course, that we could always do a budget transfer. And we'd have to grapple with that earlier rather than later. That would be another
Well-
option. We've done, so
I guess the budget surplus can be, the non-lapsing account dollars could be designated, but we don't have a policy on that yet either. So, and I know we don't want to put recurring in there, but it's
That's
a
right.
little bit complicated now. But
I don't think non-lapsing is where we'd want to go for something like
to
this.
hear Mr. Ace's point, and like, I totally understand it just seems a little late, and I don't know why we would vote on the budget if that's the big conversation we're gonna have in June.
Mr. Lee?
So I'm going to agree with Mr. Ace. We have something this big when we talked about class size and class size. It's not going to happen in a month. We can't even, you can't even go through a first read about the wording on how we treat our reserve coming back to work. So what makes you think that we can approve something for class sizes in less than a month? I don't understand that part. Well, you want to talk about rush? I keep hearing things about the STEAM thing. It feels rushed, feels rushed. We're not rushing class sizes to talk about it in 2 meetings. I mean, let's be the reality of it. We all and I agree. We're the 2 FTEs, 9. If there needs to be more time on that, but to say that we can sit here and approve something for class sizes in a month because we feel the need, the rush to, that's rushed. I don't have a problem talking about class size. I'm all for it and everything, but it definitely cannot be done in 2 meetings.
To that, I would only say I'm not, from what I've heard, we're not, the suggested amendments I have heard as being put up for consideration are old ideas. They're ideas that the board has already talked about before. So this is not, no one's going to be hearing anything brand new. But again, I do want to go over to Mr. Krasnoff now. Can you just talk into a microphone?
Yes,
We haven't made it yet.
the idea was what I had proposed last year and that we saw came to fruition again this year was when we hit the cap size that it became an auto cut.
Okay, the one thing I want to be
Into
careful
two.
of, hold on one second. We have not noticed a discussion of
Okay.
class size. So I just want to stay focused, hold on, stay focused on the motion before us. I've already referenced the fact that this
Yes.
is not new material that
It's
Mr.
not
Krasnov is
new
talking
and
about.
it's not 9 FTE. That's all I can say.
Your proposal, okay. So do you have a motion or are you still working on that?
We're working on it.
Okay,
We're working through the numbers.
Thank you. Mrs. Flynn?
I completely lost my track of thought. I very much agree with Mr. Asa and Ms. Jacobson. This is a topic that I have been discussing for going on 9 years. This is something too important to not do incredibly well. And I very much appreciate Mr. Krasnoff's intent, but we don't have a policy yet, and to conflate these 2 things at the moment without noticing the public and having a full, robust conversation, I just feel very uncomfortable with. The same reason why I said I was uncomfortable with other things before. So I just want to be consistent in that thought process and the work that we do and using, data and the information before us to make decisions. And when we
Okay, Mrs. Flynn, I'm sorry.
Huh?
We don't even have a motion before us.
Oh, well-
So I just want to say, I
Understand.
just asked if there's anything else, if we could talk about, because we don't have a motion yet. Mr. Asa?
Yes, one, I just want to take a minute to the board and to Mr. Krasnoff. I apologize for my outburst. That was uncalled for. It was not appropriate. It was a heat of the moment thing, so I do apologize for that. I stand by what I said regarding the number and the timing, and I think that we can push this off, but I do apologize.
Mr. Krasnoff?
So sorry for the delay. I do officially have an amendment. I would like to make an amendment to line 7, which is payroll, health, and insurance, to change to negative 539,983 from the 588,275.
I'm sorry, Mr. Krasnoff, do you have a motion written out?
Yeah. You want?
Yes.
Well, hold
Can I
on,
read
but
it
that's not,
first?
yeah, read the full motion first, please.
In addition, add line number 17. It's going to be teachers classroom. I would like to make a motion to increase.
Hold on, this is all one amendment.
One amendment.
So stop saying you're
Yeah,
making a motion.
Sorry, one amendment to increase.
Okay, Mr. Krasnoff, here's what.
Yep.
Back to the beginning, just read it as one continuous amendment.
I would like to make an amendment to line 7 to change the number to $539,983. I would also like to add line 17 to the sheet to increase salary budget major category 1, summary object 101, department 60 by $322,558.
Well, first of all, before this can go anywhere, do we have a second? Okay, we do not have a second. All right, back to the main motion, which is the consideration of enclosure 3 for budget adjustments. Mrs. O'Neill.
Just a thought. If we plan on having a conversation on June 9th about class size, and that could affect this, would it be a consideration to postpone all of the budget adjustments, that vote to the 23rd after we had discussed and voted on class size, because it would affect what we are doing here? Just throwing that out.
Mr. Asa.
I just want to remind the board what we're doing here. We are voting on a document and enclosure to reduce our approved budget by $2 million. And now you're talking about miraculously finding money to fund something that we haven't talked about. I think, to answer her question, postponing the vote is a bad move.
Mrs. Bardenwerper?
I fully support looking at class size. I think it's important. I think we need to do it, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Just being part of policy and seeing how it works. If we have a discussion on June 9th, we would be looking at a first read on June 23rd.
Not necessarily.
And potentially not even. So, I mean, I just think that it's going to take more time. And to Ms. Flynn's point, we need to get it right. So I personally would rather put the time in to make sure we have rooms and facilities for these new classes, and that this is going to work and that we can execute it successfully. And then if we can get it done before the end of, or, before the start of the year, we can make the budget transfers. I would fully support that. But I think we should vote this evening on our budget transfers.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson?
Not being privy to your conversations about what's going to happen in policy, but if that is indeed the case, that this is a possibility, that if Mrs. O'Neill were to make the motion to postpone, because I do think it's important, to preemptively, if that is the intent, to have that conversation, and it is a possibility that we could take action upon it, then the prudent and responsible thing on the budget would be to, and it might not change, like, right? It might not change at all. It might not get passed. It may be voting on the same exact document that's in front of us in a month from now. However, if that is in fact a possibility that a majority of the board would take some action to do something for next year, then the only other option would be to try to get it back on the agenda to amend the budget for next year or do something, or what would be another mechanism by which we would, without taking dollars from an already existing line item? How would we accomplish that?
Or without taking dollars.
Like,
from one-
meaning if we were gonna do something for next year around this issue, I'm talking to the purpose of postponement. If that would be helpful, only that if we don't do that and we wanted to add some FTE as a part of this adjustment package for next year's budget, if we don't do that and we vote tonight, then the only option next year would be to pull it from something else. Or perhaps there's some additional revenue that we haven't counted on in this budget yet. Like, we didn't count the 122K, right? There's some certain additional revenue. So is there a big deal in terms of either which one of those processes is better from your perspective?
Can I just speak to that really quickly?
Sure.
We got the 122,691, and then we were reduced by 120,000 in excess costs. So it was basically a wash.
For next year?
Yes.
You mean they gave
Well,
you an estimate?
Yeah. Well, we got reduced for this year, and I'm assuming that, we're assuming this is gonna hold. I just want to say that the discussion about class size is great. Everything is fully supported. RTM, an hour plus ago, voted on a budget. We have to reconcile $2 million.
I mean, a lot of that, almost half of that was stuff that we already knew about, like fixing the health insurance number and the pension contribution.
Right, but it's all encompassed right here. So if we don't reconcile that, then I think, to Mr. Krasnoff's point, it'll make it a lot easier to deal with if we're going to lower class sizes for next year, which I don't see either, but if it happens, then we're dealing with that and and then we can try to find an offset to that, rather than have to
I mean, it's a
incorporate.
chicken egg, really. We can make the cuts to something else ahead of time or wait. So that's why I was just trying to get the input. That's all.
Mr. Asa and then Mr. Krasnoff.
One of the things that's not being spoken about, and I'm not going to speak at length because I know where this is not a discussion item, but money is one thing. Feasibility, space, utilization, classroom availability to implement what has not been talked about yet is another. So I think getting back to the point, let's reconcile the budget tonight. If we take action on something in the future, we can reconcile it then. I think it's going to get very messy and very confusing to try and start doing that. I don't see where we're going to have the money next year, and I don't know if we're going to have the space. That's another discussion. But knowing that all of those other things need to be considered, I think we need to reconcile, because I don't think by July 1st we're going to have all the answers we need.
Mr. Krasnoff.
I just don't want the excuse that we don't have the money. And I know we have the space, we just eliminated STEAM and we have 10 classrooms. So the reason I wanted to add the money to the budget now, and I understand no one wanted to push it through, fine. But I don't want everyone to sit here and use we don't have funds as an excuse why to not look at the classroom policy. Because if that's really the intent here, to use that as an excuse, shame on all of us. Because we have the opportunity to do it now.
Mrs. Bardenwerper.
I just wanted to personally say that will have no impact on my decision. If I think it's right for the students and it's feasible and we can make it work in the space, I will fully support making those class sizes smaller, and budget will not. We will find a way to make it work. I will help try to make it work. Thank you.
So discussion on the enclosure number 3. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll go out to the public. Again, we ask that you do not speak to the same topic twice. So if anybody has anything that you'd like to say regarding enclosure 3, the motion on the table. Just make sure the green light's on.
Hi again, Crystal Posture. Can I ask a question about?
I can't answer it.
No? Okay. I just wanted to say then that it seems to me like there should be room in the budget to reduce the Chromebooks. It sounded to me like they're pre-purchased. And I find that fascinating that we would be pre-purchasing something that I think, well, I know every single parent I've ever spoken with hates them. So I just wonder why that gets pre-purchased instead of some other things that we could be spending the money on, such as, the STEAM teachers, why they aren't prepaid instead of the Chromebooks pre-purchased. And I would also make one other point that I know a lot of kids are drawn to STEAM and that they would sign up for it as an after-school program, but I would imagine that would be like a far smaller number than participated in years past, and that maybe the kids who benefit the most from it are the ones that wouldn't sign up for it unless it was required in the curriculum. So I know that's separate, but I would ask you to consider making it part of the curriculum.
Thank you.
I'm Christine Marks, 53 Rockland Road. I really wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but something Miss Flynn kind of sparked something in me. I'm an arts and crafts mom, and I have arts and crafts kids so far. And the first and only time I was able in elementary school to apply my arts and crafts in a more academically awarding setting was through our invention convention, our science fair, and I won, which, like, I was just telling the girls back there, I can't believe that that's what came to mind. I'm like, I was that art kid and I thrived in art, and math was really just not my thing. And I see that in my girl now, who's, I'm like getting emotional because I want her to have that same opportunity. She's a crafty girl And I'd like to see her see herself as smart before she goes to middle school.
Thank you.
Greg Bosch. It's not? Can't tell.
Yes.
470 Jackman. I want to thank the board for its deliberations here tonight. I drove down here from home, listening from home, because I didn't realize how messy this was going to get here tonight. There is a whole group of parents that have kids in Fairfield Public Schools that eagerly want to engage in this class size discussion. And they're not here tonight because it's not on the agenda. And I cannot believe that it would be brought up in this way in the middle of a budget fight when you would have so much advocacy in this room. So the real issue in this discussion, to be very clear, is that it was not adequately considered and incorporated into the budget at the beginning. And it's the policy committee that prevented that from happening, and it's this board that prevented that from happening. It should have been part of the original ask. And then we could have had a great debate in this town among the Board of Finance and the RTM, and there would be money available. I went to the Ward Auditorium for the Board of Finance public comment session. And it was at that meeting where everything had been set up for a request of $844,000 to be restored to the budget. That's more money than necessary for what Mr. Krasnoff is asking for here tonight. And instead, the message to the Board of Finance was, please just no more cuts. And again, the public that had turned out to support this Board of Education budget on that Saturday was denied the opportunity to have this discussion, to advocate for smaller class sizes. Because 23 kids in a kindergarten class is too many, and 25 kids in a 5th grade class is too many. And we've known it for years. We've had great discussions about the need for a durable fix. And we don't have it because the policy committee has not moved that work forward. So if you're feeling like you don't have the money tonight, it's because you haven't asked for it. If you feel like you haven't studied this enough to know that we can do it, it's because that work hasn't been done. It's the Board of Ed that is holding this up. I'd be remiss if I didn't spend whatever time I have remaining to say that I'm very disappointed in the cut to the STEAM program and the reduction of those FTE. I've spoken to this before, so I'll refer people to my previous comments. It's in your budget tonight. You are going to vote on it. And so I guess the last remaining vote was about the money, because there were so many other opportunities along the way where the board could have taken a stand, either on the schedule or what specials. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'll be quick. I just wanted to respond to the whole idea of the invention convention after school, and then also,
I do apologize. That's not actually the motion that's before us.
okay, what am I allowed to comment on?
You're allowed to comment on the budget adjustments. But not the
that's a part
STEAM,
of-
because you already spoke to STEAM. No, that's not part of the budget adjustments. That was just Mr. Testani informing informing a board member of an intention of communication to parents. Thank you, though. Any other parents? All right, back to the full board. There was a comment made that I feel needs addressing. When this board voted on the class size policy, we as a group agreed to a year before it was reconsidered. The policy committee did not fail in its job. This board did not fail in its advocacy. This board asked for a year's worth of data before we reconsidered that policy. What we noticed the public of our intention of doing is precisely what we are doing. So I do feel the need to correct that and not let that be the public statement, because that is a fallacy. It is what we agreed to. It is what we notified the board of. This was our intention to each other. And to say otherwise is simply wrong. Are there any other comments on enclosure number 3, budget adjustments? Seeing none, I will repeat that the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the 26-27 Board of Ed operating budget adjustments per enclosure 3. All those in favor? Mrs. Barnum-Werper, Mr. Lee, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, Mr. Asa, Ms. Rinaldi. All those opposed? Mrs. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, Ms. O'Neill. Abstentions? Mr. Krasnoff. Thank you. Next on our agenda is item G, update on the Sorry? What? Yeah, sorry. Fair point. Motion passed 5-3-1. Next up on the agenda is item G, update on the bylaw advisory committee. I'll go over to Mrs. Jacobson.
So we had our first meeting of the bylaws. Everyone received an email with a sheet. Our next meeting is going to be June 11th, I believe, yes. And so the packet will come up before that. So everyone has in their email a spreadsheet, just like any of our other spreadsheets. Each tab is for each article of the bylaws. If you have any input on any articles, to please input. It could be just a general idea. It doesn't have to be exact language, or if you do have exact language that you're concerned about or would like to change, feel free to add that as well. There is a tab. The first tab is just broad language, because we realize there are some topics that just apply throughout, like check the charter citations, or check all of the different months throughout the document. So if there's broad statements, there's a tab for that too. So we're just asking if everyone could please get your input in by end of midnight, June 1st. So that it can get turned around by central office and made sure it makes into our packet to go out to the board. So Mr. Asa, myself, and Mrs. Maxon Kennelly our intent is to meet. We have dates already set on the calendar. Of course, this will not be your only opportunity to give feedback on this. I think it is our intent to bring this to the board at check-in points along the way to see how everyone is feeling about it. But please, if you would do us a huge favor, if there is any issues, to please put that information into the sheet so we can consider that as we start working on edits or proposed changes to everyone. And
Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you, three, very much for this work. I appreciate your clarification. So if a member was going to submit something that was more broad and not specific language, would you want them to attend a meeting? I know with Paul, no, or just submit the language and let you guys run with it? Wonderful.
You can put it just on the broad tab, but of course, anyone is welcome to come to the meeting if you want to talk about it.
I don't.
I
do.
Okay. And of course, if there's any questions or clarifications, we could follow up.
I'll pick that up. Yeah, we were eagerly looking at the computer to see if anybody popped in on our first meeting, and we're astounded to see nobody. But the one thing I would suggest is that even if you think you won't have any bylaw suggestions, it's really well worthwhile to take a thorough read for it anyway, because the bylaws are the policy that govern the actions of the board. And if you're not sure what kind of things I went through it last night. I've populated all over the spreadsheet so you can see plenty of models. Sometimes I suggested language, but mostly I was very informally saying, look at this. So again, even if you don't think you've been on the board long enough to know, it is still a very worthwhile read, because we're really trying to do a comprehensive job with Mrs. Jacobson as chair. And, I'm really very excited about the work. Any other questions? Okay, so thank you very much. Moving on to item 8, superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, hopefully people are still watching at home. Tomorrow evening from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Pequot Library is the 52nd annual Student Art Show. So please take a few minutes, stop by, see some great pieces of art, hard work from our students all year long, and the hard work of all our art teachers in compiling all the pieces of art and then going over for a couple of days to the library to set it all up so it's properly displayed and then taking it all down. So it's a great evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Pequot Library. Just want to say thank you to Jennings for welcoming myself, First Select Person Christine Vitale, and Governor Ned Lamont, as well as members of Fairfield PD, Fairfield Fire Department, EMT Service, and local dentists and doctors for Community Helper Day on Friday. Students visited various groups before gathering for a full school assembly in the gymnasium, where they learned about the important roles of yours truly, the superintendent, the First Select Person, and the Governor of the state of Connecticut. The event concluded with thoughtful student-led questions and discussions. It was really a cool day. I think the kids came up with some really great questions for all three of us, but they really learned a lot about community helpers and our EMT, police, fire, dentists, and doctors in the community. So it was a great day. Glad to be a part of it. Also on Friday, Riverfield held its annual Patriotic Day celebration ahead of Memorial Day weekend to honor and remember all the soldiers who fought for our freedoms. Students put on an incredible performance featuring patriotic songs, red, white, blue attire, and heartfelt moments shared with family and community members. If you haven't been, it's a great event. Seeing just multiple generations, grandchildren and their moms, their dads, their grandparents, sometimes great grandparents, all coming together in the front of the school. It is something to be seen. Really want to say I'm proud of the Fairfield Ludlow High School Future Business Leaders of America chapter. They earned gold level status in the National FBLA Championship Chapter Program, the highest distinction awarded nationally. And in addition, Fairfield Ward's FBLA chapter earned silver status, recognizing the hard work and dedication of our student members and their advisors. Congratulations to all of them. And a big shout out to the Riverfield and Mill Hill Green teams. They turned advocacy into action. Students spent weeks writing to state legislators about environmental issues, including electric buses, composting, pollution control, and protecting endangered animals. As a result, they visited the state capitol to deliver their letters and meet local representatives. So big shout out to the green teams. And I will be sending out, just trying to get some more information from Mr. Luke Allen over at Ward. In the coming weeks in June, if you haven't been to the Wood Show over at Ward on Saturday, it's a great event. A lot of great pieces that have been created by the students go up for sale, and you're welcome to come and purchase. They make some really cool items during the year in the wood shop there.
Could be a really cool way to introduce your middle schooler to one of the many electives at the high school. Any questions about the superintendent's report? Okay, moving on to agenda item 9, committee and liaison reports. Mr. Lee.
So the first report comes from our HVAC IAQ committee. Just to give you a quick update, they're still doing the pre-work in Tomlinson. Once that bell rings on the last day of school, the real works begins. They're on schedule. All the equipment was ordered previously is in. And so they're ready to go. On the Dwight Building Committee, the last 2 meetings, the architect has been selected and a construction management company has been selected. So now the real work begins. The chairman and vice chairman and some members of the committee went in front of the BOF last week to give an update. They were told realistically where the 70% reimbursement would come from. I just caution to make sure that the general public and everyone else knows the building committee is not an offshoot of the Board of Ed. It is run by the Board of Selectmen. Any money that does get returned or reimbursed doesn't come to the BOE. It goes to the town and what they do with it. In the past, it's actually the money, it wasn't as much as what was returned, but how much was not taken out from the bank. So let's remember it's not that. And it's 70% on what's deemed reimbursable and eligible by the state. And there is still potentially, the state can still cap what is reimbursed to on another different level that there's talk in Hartford about. So as I said throughout the entire process, this town doesn't do projects based on reimbursement. We have the money, we have what's been approved for the project. Stay focused on that and understand that process. The other thing I also want to remind people, and I hear it, is that turf fields are now reimbursed when they're attached to a school project. Yes, however, the reimbursement is based on 50% of what that town's original past reimbursement rates are. So it's not off the 70%. It would be off of the average, which was 26%, 28%, which means the town will only get 13%. And again, putting a turf field attached to a school to replace the field, this BOE doesn't own the field. So it is you're actually spending money, not saying it shouldn't be spent for other possibilities, but you're not spending that money on the school itself. You're spending it for another town board for Parks and Rec, right? So let's just make sure all our facts and everything, it's great to hear it all and people are invested in and hearing it, but we got to make sure we're all on the same page with the knowledge and the information I'm hearing. So at the end of the day, the project is moving forward where it needs to be. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lee?
I just got some breaking news, just so we can share. The Fairfield Ludlow High School girls outdoor track won the FCAC championship
Ooh,
tonight, so.
nice. Fantastic. Okay, Mrs. Jacobson.
Just in similar vein, standing, special project standing building committee, move forward with selection of the A&E for the vegetable project. So that is moving forward and on track and all of that. So that vestibule, did I say vegetable? Mama needs some AVO. So vestibule projects. So moving forward on track and all is good in that area.
Fantastic. Questions? Okay, Mr. Krasnoff?
I have two reports for everyone. One's very brief from CES. If everyone is not aware, Dr. Dumas has decided to move on. He's going to enter the legal field. It was officially announced, I believe, a week ago. I've known for about a month, but he is going to be moving on. He's going to stay 6 months to 9 months, but I just wanted to let everyone know he will move on from CES and possibly work for one of the law firms we do business with. Then on the curriculum committee side, June 8th is our next meeting. We have lots of great notes about the curriculum documents that you guys have seen. And as far as I know, we will be reviewing all those questions and having a robust discussion. So if anyone wants to tune in and see some of the questions that were asked by your fellow board mates and the discussion that transpires with our staff.
I have one question. Do you anticipate, because as I recall, there was math, library, and art, in addition to science, that was on your last curriculum. Do you anticipate any of them are going to be looking for board feedback akin to what science did, or it's not of that nature?
Hasn't been discussed further than the science at this point. If board members do want to make comments on other stuff, feel free to send it to me. I would love to have any comments, and I will bring it up either in our meeting or to staff, but at this point, we do not have a Google Doc for that.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson.
So just through you to the chair, if we do have comments on any of the other, we should just be emailing those directly to you?
Yeah,
And then
for
that will
now,
get distributed to the other curriculum
Correct,
committee members,
correct.
or?
You can send it to me on CC, Dr. Zabajancic, and Mr. Tastani, and do you want it as well? Just the three of us would be fine.
Okay.
And then I'll send it to the rest so we don't create a meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, just a couple of things from me. Just at the PTA meeting, which the last one had to be rescheduled, was held by Zoom, which I don't know if it's because it was on Zoom, but they had some really good attendance, which was pretty cool. So we will have PTA Council Award recognition at a board event, at a board meeting. I have to work with Ms. Efron in terms of scheduling that. And there was just also wanted to see some passionate parents talking about those, and I can't call them by the right name, they're biking to school days. And just, some of our schools do it superbly. And there's just so much sharing of resources, of ideas of how to conduct it. It was really exciting just to watch the parents invest in that. And then secondly, with policy committee, we are pretty locked in on grading, although apparently we might have a few other policies we need to look at this point. But we have discussed the preamble. Suddenly, I'm not quite sure why Mrs. Jacobson, Mrs. Guernsey and I loved the preamble that we picked before. I'm not sure if that's where we're going to end up. We also got some ideas for an outline, and I'm hoping we can really make a little bit of movement in June. And in the meantime, our two committees have been formed. So we have our GPA committee. Excuse me, this is really to Mr. Testani. I'm only speaking to it because it has board members on it. These are not Board of Ed committees, but that GPA committee, we have Ms. O'Neill, Mr. Krasnoff, and Mrs. Bardenwerper, who will meet this Thursday. And then I believe it's next week, the grading regulations committee will meet, and Mr. Testani did end up requesting a board member for that. So Mrs. Jacobson was kind enough to step forward for that. And that should be meeting.
First full week in June, so now I know to make sure you get an invite, because I had no idea it was you.
I thought,
Thank you.
my apologies. I thought I let you know. So good to have that come out. Okay, any other committee liaison reports? None? Okay, open board comment? Anything? No? Okay. I guess the only thing I will say is that we are looking at a busy June. That's the best I can say, and that here's what I actually like about the budget discussion we had, as messy as it can get. No one can say it's not transparent. You know, these were not like votes locked in behind the scenes ahead of time or whatever. We had our authentic discussion in front of the public, but it does take time. So the only thing I would ask for our two meetings in June is that sometimes we like to ask a question in public, and I think it's important that we do so. First of all, it may have just occurred to us. Secondly, it might be a good question for the public to hear. But there's also a case to be made that some questions could be asked prior to the meeting to get some direction. So you, obviously, all of you use your individual best judgments on that, but these are going to be two busy meetings. Mr. Krasnoff.
That being said, if I do plan, which I've made it pretty clear, to make an amendment to the classroom size policy, do you want me to send it to you or to the board prior to our meeting?
I would say so.
That
There's no reason
everyone-
it can't be in the packet.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Public comment. No, Mr. McGarry? Okay. All right, then I will take a motion to adjourn. The recommended motion that this regular meeting of the Board of Education adjourn, moved by Ms. Bardenwerper, seconded by Mrs. Jacobson. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you.